And we're live. Welcome back to the show. This week we are joined, Scott and Patrick are joined by Jared. Welcome back to the show.
Woo!
Hello.
So, the genesis of this episode, a while back, Jared just decided to read this book. I don't know what his reasoning was, but and he was telling me about it and I was like, "I'm jealous. I want to read this book too." So I told myself, and you can check the transcripts here. I believe it was a Rockfin exclusive episode, exclusive live stream we did, and I said I'm going to talk about the book Chaos because I had finished reading it. Um, and uh, and so I didn't really get basically to make a long story short, I didn't really do a great job of saying what happens in this
Neither
book.
neither did I. There's plenty enough blame to go around. My recall is awful since becoming a parent. Like my short-term is just horrendous. So I was like completely embarrassed because I had admitted to reading the book, but I couldn't tell you anything about it.
These things
Uh,
happen.
So, but
Tom
okay, but
will
so
tell you what happened in this book. Poor
but then
guy.
anyway, so I was saying we were going to book the show, and I was like, okay, Jared, what are we going to talk about next? And we were like, well, what's something we could do some light lifting on here, which is we could reread books we both already read. But I will say that this my research of this episode extended beyond the scope of the book Chaos. And I've read almost half. I didn't finish it. I concede, but I read almost half of Ed Sanders' The Family as well. And to the point where, though, I think like the takeaway I've really come, and a lot of what I want to like sort of focus on tonight is how like while this book Chaos by Tom O'Neill is like filled with a lot of good information, I think like all of us have come to like the conclusion that it's kind of a limited hang.
And
yeah.
I mean, listen, if you want the national bestseller thing up at the top of the thing, you're gonna have to
It's gonna have to be a limited hang. So
you're gonna
yeah,
have to
the book
trim some fat.
the book is written by this guy named Tom O'Neill. And I let's get this right out of the way, out of the front, out the gate. Um, I really feel like his main issue when writing this book was he wanted to set out to write a book about the Charles Manson murders, Charles Manson, the family murders. But he ended up writing a book about Tom O'Neill researching the Manson family murders.
Okay.
And and it sucks for that reason. It's really self-indulgent how this guy basically found a way to incorporate his own personality into every aspect of this book. And I will also say this gave him sort of a literary device in order to not focus on in my opinion fairly critical details that really bring the whole narrative together. And the what you are left with, because he sort of took this me search approach, um he he ends up leaving. So a couple of months ago, it was when that like healthcare shooting happened, I wrote like a quick one, like literally through took me an hour and a half to write article about it. And at the end I kind of did this thing where I'm like, what am I trying to say here? I'm not really sure what I'm trying to say here, but this is kind of weird, this is kind of weird, this is kind of weird about that. Go check it out, it's on Substack for free.
Check it
But
out.
um my point is, it took me an hour and a half to write that, and this guy got millions of dollars and became a national bestseller. And the conclusion is much the same. Is basically like, I don't know, but
Yeah.
you know,
So you know what, Scott? I'll defend him a bit.
please do.
Okay.
He's
This
not
is
here to defend himself.
this is a normie, right?
Yes, it is.
And he spent the better part of almost 20 years not wanting to take the red pill. Not
That's short for
he's
sure.
like the red pill's like right in front of him. He's like, I don't know, man. I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can do it. And I think maybe he takes half the pill.
Yeah. Well, I think he took the whole thing and he just decided not to run with what it taught him.
Well, I
Perfect, yeah.
mean, every like the second time around, I was like paying way more attention. Before I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna listen to this book,
Absorb the
and
information.
yeah, and it's like everywhere you turn, there's someone involved in intelligence.
Yeah,
Yeah. He does bring attention to most of these, by the way.
painstakingly.
But
So I
he,
mean,
but and here's the other part of the defense is, at the end of the day, he's staked his entire livelihood around this, and now he needs the book to sell. And, editors get in the way, publishers get in the way. As of, excuse me, telling you in our chat, like, you don't know what the original manuscript was. Like, he
That's
could prob
true.
he could have like connected all the dots, and they're like, we can't put this out. Like, this
Yeah,
is
but one thing comes to mind, and I don't I definitely said this to you, Jared, but I don't know if I said it to you, Patrick. But there's this one part where he talks about in the like the right in the middle of his research, he created this like like one of these like stereotypical conspiracy boards with
the
the red
Charlie Day.
line. Yeah, the Pepe Sylvia scene
yeah,
from Always Sunny. Yeah, and he's named and he specifically says Charlie, and then minor Hollywood people, drug dealers, pimps. So he's created this web of people. Don't you think it would have been helpful if you had included that in the fucking book, Tom? Do you think that there's a possibility that there are other people out there who have done more reading than just the confines of your normie fucking New York Times bestseller book that
yeah.
might go, oh, this guy? This
Oh,
use
that
of your whole thing is I got original research. I did research that nobody else did. It'd be great if you shared some with the class.
Well,
Uh,
I will say he does have I have his website open here, and let's see right now if he has something in the way of an archive.
diagram. See, he made it look like he made it seem like, and he said he had all these papers out on the floor with the guy who gave him the money from Premiere Magazine and stuff like that, and like this guy who was like well to do. I'm assuming Jewish publisher type guy was going like, good work, Tom. Like I assume, which is what must have been what was going on, but so okay, there's another thing is like, and then there's other glaring and misses like that are like, come on, man. Um, and we'll get to them in due time. I don't want to like just sit here and beat on them, but my point was I just wanted to start this with we read this book Chaos, and it is a limited hangout. And there's some that was my first big one was like he talks about how he has this like huge web of all these people, and it's like, dude, programmed to kill people who are into that shit. That's the game, is being
Yeah,
like, oh, this guy, oh my god, this guy. That's the
yeah.
But
whole thing.
he's not like that.
That's fine, but do your fucking journalistic duty, man.
Well, let's set the stage a bit for what was he doing prior to okay, this is funny because we're gonna start at the beginning and then jump right to the end because prior to this he was doing like
Schlock.
what yeah, perfect, thank you, just the
Like
Hollywood schlock.
fluff pieces. He's writing
Yeah,
for Premiere Magazine. Premiere Magazine doesn't even exist anymore. It's all schlock.
Yeah, he helped bankrupt them with
I
his
literally though. Yeah,
with with his filibustering. So, but this is what's funny. In 1995, I do know one particular thing he was working on. He mentions it at the back of the book. He was working on a piece about how paparazzi influenced celebrity behavior. He
mm.
Huh.
interviewed a very, very, the kind of name that would make anyone.
Lewis Jolly and West, you're talking about?
Who? Oh, wait, who? What?
Lewis
Who?
Jolly and West, you're
West.
saying?
Oh, he had no clue who that was at the time.
I mean,
And
actually, you're raising a fairly good point. Is how did he get a fucking beat on Lewis Jolly and West in
it,
1995? Yeah.
it's so
Well,
funny.
apparently Jolly West was like a known entity
Yes.
out there.
He is definitely a known entity, especially in
Yeah.
1995, dude. Right after Oklahoma City bombing, he was all up in it.
So here's a bunch of people that Louis Jolly, in my head, I'm going into this book knowing is going to come up at the end. And I'm already thinking like, all right, I know West was, he was in Ruby's, he was at his bedside. He was in McVeigh's cell. He, who else? Oh, he met Tom O'Neill before Tom O'Neill interviewed him.
I mean, good point. He
So
also let's also not forget about what's his name, RFK, not RFK, RFK too,
sure.
Sirhan, but
Yes.
also Martin Luther King,
Oh,
James Earl Ray as well.
yes. Poor man. Um, vindicated, by the way.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so, I think I read something somewhere where like the fellas in prison were like, no, he's all right.
Yeah. That's the story. I mean, if you got Coretta Scott King coming to visit you at in federal prison, I think the black guys there will be think you're cool, honestly.
Bringing you a pecan pie and shit.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Okay, but we're getting off topic. There's so much ground to cover. So
Louis, Jolly, and West.
yeah, so we'll get to his involvement later. But I think you've raised a fair point here, which is the entire thing kind of stinks to high heaven at any rate. And those are just the on its face. This guy took 20 years to write a book and he didn't like lose, he didn't go bankrupt. Like shut the fuck up.
Well, I'm sure his parents had to.
Yeah, I know you're right about that.
His
Yeah.
parents are at every climactic point in the book.
I
Well, yeah,
know,
that's when
dude,
he
it's
needs
all
the
about
money.
him.
He needs the money.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. But it's all about him. Anyway, so let's leave Tom O'Neill here
Let's leave
and
him
we'll
alone.
talk about the nuts and bolts of the actual, specifically the Tate murders, which is like the most, notable or most sort of sensational part of the entire thing. So uh let's just real quick. I'll actually just real easy. Let's this is actually it may seem lazy, but it's not because we want to have the absolute most normie rendition of what happened here. So let's look at the Wikipedia page. It's just 2 paragraphs. We'll be right through it in 2 seconds. On the night of August 8th, 1969, Manson directed Tex Watson to take Susan Sadie Atkins, Linda Kasabian, Patricia Krenwinkel to Terry Melcher's former home at 10050 Cielo Drive in Los Angeles. According to Watson, Manson told them to kill everyone there. The home had recently been rented to actress Sharon Tate and her husband, director Roman Polanski, who was away in Europe working on the movie The Day of the Dolphin.
Gay.
Manson told the 3 women to do as Watson told them. The family members killed the 5 people they found: Sharon Tate, 8.5 months pregnant, who was living there at the time, Jay Sebring, Abigail Folger, and Wojciech Frykowski, who was visiting her. It wasn't just visiting her. I think they were boyfriend, girlfriend living
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Well, he was also Frykowski was friends with
Well, that's how they'd met. So that's not really that conspiratorial, to be fair. But Stephen Parent, who had been visiting the caretaker of this home, what the fuck was he doing there, by the way? He was buying a radio? Okay. Atkins
Oh,
wrote Pig with Tate's blood on the front door as they left, and the murders created a nationwide sensation.
Likely story.
Right. Okay. So, and then the next night, the La Bianca murders. Well, hang on. Let's just talk. Let's get into a little bit some of the fucking
We
weird
just
stuff here.
5 people just died, Scott. Let's take it
I
back.
know. Let's give it a little bit of fucking reverence at least.
Yeah, I mean, for goodness. I mean, well,
So Jay Sebring, who's Jay Sebring? Let's start with who the principals are here. Sharon
he,
Tate, a pregnant wife of Roman Polanski, recently acclaimed Jewish Polish film director of Rosemary's Baby, which was consulted on by Anton LaVey and has an uncredited role as Satan in the film.
mm.
Um,
No, I do believe Tate had recently been inducted had she be? No, I'm thinking of Jane
No, no,
Mansfield.
she was. Thank you for bringing that up. It was in England when she was making I don't know what the name, it's something. Oh, it was the other movie that Polanski did, Fearless Vampire Killers or something, and she's like a witch in it, and she got involved in the occult in an English thing. I just read that in the Sanders book.
Mm.
And so yeah, she was an occultist as well. And I also want to um be very clear here, um
Does that
that
get brought up? Does O'Neill bring that up in the book?
no, he
No,
does no, he doesn't.
he
Yeah.
doesn't he doesn't bring that up. He brings up the fact that he forced her to
Have
get
sex with two guys
get
on
Eiffel
film.
Towered on film.
Oh, oh, that's
Um, and then he used to beat the shit out of her apparently,
yeah.
and
And
he cheated on
Bugliosi,
her all the time.
Yeah,
Bugliosi helped cover that tape up, or
Yes,
was
it was
under.
a piece of like folklore around it though, because it made it into the Sanders book, The Family. And everybody in the know knew, like the police and like the friends of Tate and stuff. They all knew about it. Um, and yeah, so
So
you go ahead.
back
Sorry.
to Tate. I'm sorry. Yeah, well, back to Tate, and she was and she'd been on Polanski's movies. He was in London at the time,
And
scouting.
also he was like fucking around with his wife. And also the Day of the Dolphin never happened. The day he certainly didn't. Oh no, it actually did come out, but he didn't end up making it, of course. Um,
He would have done it justice.
yeah, it's also a stupid idea for a movie. I don't think it did well either, by the way.
They got the
Um,
wrong dolphin. They got the wrong
it's literally about MK Ultra dolphins, so it's kind of like an ironic, like like
John
ironic
you mean a
movie that
guy
he.
who would make a movie about Satan, like the Antichrist would do a movie about MK Ultra dolphins?
What is it with
I mean, it checks out to me. I mean, he made a bunch of really goofy shit. Honestly, that Gate
goofy
movie,
shit? Wait, which one?
the Gate, Seventh Gate or something,
Ninth Gate,
Ninth
Hey,
Gate. Yeah,
which is about Satan.
yeah, of
what
course. I mean, what
a
else would it be about?
hammy. That movie is ham back to front, so goofy, and it's fine. It's not bad. I watched it
His
once.
wife plays a demon, like his actual like wife, the woman he would like marry in the 80s after
Raping
like
children.
yes. He married this like French model and she plays like the demon who's protecting Johnny Depp throughout the film.
Yeah, I've seen it. But yeah, I mean, he makes a habit of, you know, having
Yeah, his movies,
diabolical things happen to his fucking
Macbeth.
wife, I guess.
Well, he
Like
did Macbeth too, it was a
he
great
did do a Macbeth.
version of Macbeth. But I'll talk about another family annihilation movie. You know,
Or how
um,
about Family Annihilation? How about Chinatown?
but
That's another family annihilation movie right
that's
there.
still,
Incest, there's elite
Corruption.
incest,
the man
yeah,
seems to
corruption and
be a
murder and
he's a sponge. He's a sponge that you type.
he also he's in most of his own movies, by the way, and he always plays a villain.
That's not surprising. He
Yeah.
seems to be really he
He's
seems
in
to be
most
really
of
good
his
at
own.
that.
I mean, he has the physiognomy for it. But so okay, the other people in the house though. So we talk about Sharon Tate and Polanski, and Jay Sebring was there to, I assume, to fuck pregnant Sharon Tate.
I think that the baby was his.
I don't. I think the baby was a satanic sacrifice,
It was
and and it was like he was sort of like playing out his movie in real life, and like he had his wife killed and the baby, and like it was probably all the whole thing, man.
he was supposed to come back the day on the 10th.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah, amazing.
and also he like had supposed to have been back already, but he
But he
said
was
no,
fucking
no, I'm
around.
gonna be a little later.
He was fucking around.
You
It's
know,
not that. I think he just knew what was gonna happen. but you
Have
never
it been?
know.
That's something to. Here's a question to pose to the text. As thinking back is what were the murders delayed? Were there things that I don't know, and that's what kept him there? Is there a way to find when he exactly
According to Deborah Tate,
did?
the what's it called? The family was watching the house, the Cielo Drive house, and wasn't supposed to go there and do the thing while Tate was there, but her car was in the shop.
Mm-hmm.
And so that who knows about that? That's like something that
That
Deborah
could just
Tate
be a
goes
cope.
around.
That could
It
just be
could
a
be a
cope.
cope, yeah.
Cope for a mom that lost her daughter and her
Oh, that was a
grandkid.
sister, I think, but still.
Oh,
Um,
Back to the
yeah,
marriage.
but
but so
sorry.
Yeah,
Let's look at like the victims, right?
yeah,
yeah,
Jay
Oh
yeah.
no,
Sebring. Tell me the Jay Sebring connections.
Jay
Yeah.
Sebring was in the name, like that's not his real name. His name was like Thomas John, like white name. He's from like Alabama,
Yeah.
Mississippi, like the South, like the deep South. Uh,
Total spook thing. Spook dip.
was in the Navy during Korea, right? Like revolutionizes the hair industry where he's no like it's not a barber shop, he's a stylist. He's taking private clients. They're all famous people. He's
Yep.
buddy buddy with Frank Sinatra. He's getting
Mobbed up.
Yeah.
he's not like he's getting flown out to Vegas to cut hair for the mob. Like this guy has spook all over him.
The also must be said, Mob is the CIA, just for the record. They're the same organization based, or I should say, the mob operates at the pleasure of the CIA. So, um,
And then
Can we?
I have
Yeah.
here from the book, it says back in 69, Sebring was nicknamed the Candy Man and was said to have used his salon to peddle drugs to the stars.
Yeah.
Uh, Jim Markham was Sebring's protege and business partner in a budding franchise of Mayor salons and has made this public or statement publicly. So he's got drugs, the
yep,
mob, he was in the Navy, and
Mm.
he's got connections to Hollywood.
big
And
time connections.
if I may punctuate that with a bit off page 81, this is just after talking about his trips to Vegas, regular trips to Vegas to cut Sinatra's hair, and uh, these crazy parties are happening with mob guys. And after the murders, we're talking about a fellow hairdresser here. His name is Joe Torrenueva. Um, Joe is convinced that Sebring's murder had to do with something more than hippies trying to ignite a race war. Sebring, he told me, had been involved with mob guys from Chicago and Las Vegas. He cut their hair, partied with them in Vegas. Then, after the murders, little Joe got a call from General Charlie Barron, a casino executive and mobster, who told him, "Don't worry, little Joe, you're going to be all right." He presumed that the murders had been a drug deal gone wrong and that Jay and Frykowski had been targeted. And then there was one bit here. Joe was still nervous, so then he said, "You didn't do anything to anybody. No one's going to do anything to you." The implication was that Barron and his associates were well aware of who committed the crimes and why. So,
Yeah. So also, you mentioned Wojciech Frykowski. Wojciech Frykowski's parents were OSS assets during World War II. I believe this is in the book, for the record.
mm,
Um, but I read in Ed Sanders' The Family, he also had something to do with Polanski's being a known filmmaker. He was actually financed his first short film, this Frykowski guy. So no wonder he got free reign to flop on his couch forever.
mm, yeah, and he was at that point, at the point of the murders, he was just using the house as a trap house.
Basically, yeah, he was
Trap.
selling drugs. He was selling drugs out of the place essentially, and also fucking a rich billionaire.
Eris.
heiress, who also is tangentially connected to the fucking intelligence via COINTELPRO because she was friends with the Weather Underground.
Yeah.
Um,
And the
Which,
Weather
so,
Underground dig Charlie Manson, man.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, I had that quote
loved
written
her,
down
yeah.
too. Bernadine Dorn.
Yeah.
Bernadine Dorn.
Where
Manson has my praise, or something along those lines.
far out. So funny. Yeah, but Wojciech, Folger, who else? Sebring.
The guy who came there to just buy a radio from the caretaker who lived.
Who,
Um,
the
He
gay
had his
agent?
radio too loud. It also indicates that he knew what was going on. It's like, okay, between fucking 8 and 9, turn your radio real loud so nothing can be heard outside of the house.
okay.
How
Also,
can you not hear?
the owner of the house, this gay guy, what was his name?
Oh,
Um,
Rudy.
Rudy
Ab-
Altabelli.
Yeah,
Rudy Altabelli. He was out of town. He knew to be out of town when it happened. Oh, the other thing was, months go by, and this is like sort of the new some of the new research done by O'Neill here, but months and months, 4 or 5 months go by. No, sorry, 8 months go. Wait a minute.
it's 4 months before they find him.
It
in
was
the
four.
year,
Okay, it was 4 months go by before they found them, despite them all being arrested several times.
oh man,
um,
I guess it's the craziest thing. Not only was the longest trial to date, it was delayed by how many months?
a long time, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they didn't.
Um,
Yeah, so did we get
but so
everybody?
the next night they go out to Lino and Rosemary LaBianca's house. Now, Program to Kill enjoyers will note that David McGowan has put in the has a index, sorry, has a footnote and a cited note in
Program
Program
to
to
Kill.
Kill that the LaBiancas were local drug dealers, coke dealers.
Hmm.
So, and that's just nowhere to be found in the Tom O'Neill book, by the way, even though I'm pretty sure it is not like a super secretive factoid. And I think it actually, where I think if I looked in the back of, I have it right here, actually, we could find out. But I looked in the back, and I'm pretty sure he got it off like a A&E biography piece on the Charles Manson murders or something like that. And it's like, yeah, man. Sometimes they just accidentally get like an A&E, like A&E ends up getting a scoop on something and ends up revealing something new that no one else knew.
Well, what we have unsolved what was that show? Unsolved
Unsolved
mystery.
Mysteries, yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
Uh, live on in real time, but yeah. So there, folks, do not underestimate your own curiosity in this, your own hand in this.
Yeah. Okay, so and then again they slaughter this couple, and it's months go by, and oh yeah, they also killed Gary Hinman. Also that's the thing, Gary Hinman was the night before, and that's the thing with, so Bobby Beausoleil is a whole other guy. This is kind of an important thing. Bobby Beausoleil was his own guy. Bobby Beausoleil was a pimp, was almost Charles Manson. He may have been Charles Manson. They had Bobby's girls at one point. He was an acolyte of Kenneth Anger, and was actually played Satan in this movie. I don't know what the name of the movie was.
Lucifer Rising.
Lucifer Rising, thank you. He plays Satan in it. And he himself had his own like occult cadre of women that he was giving LSD and pimping out.
He's like the Fredo Corleone of this whole situation. He could have been Manson.
It's just the thing, it's that this is the Program to Kill thing, is you have to put it all on one guy.
Yeah.
So all the bad stuff gets all sucked up into him, and then you don't. And they even tried him separately, and then later they're like, "Oh, actually, it was him."
Well, because wasn't that the whole thing? Is that like this is the thing that O'Neill keeps going back to? It's like, why are they like Bosley was they claim that Bosley killed Hinman, and then they did the Tate murders to copycat the Beausoleil murder, or the Gary Hinman murder, to get Beausoleil out of jail. And then they're like, well, we've got to copycat it again with
Yeah.
the La Bianca.
Right.
And
That's a whole theory where, yeah. So basically the idea is, so Gary Hinman was this guy that was friends with the family who was a musician, and he apparently got a little bit of money from his parents when they died. And for some reason the Manson family got it in their heads that it was $20,000. And the other thing is, like, I was reading through this Sanders book, and this is one thing I have a big beef with this fucking Chaos book is it it does all this, like, there's some good stuff with the Roger Smith and the Dave Smith and the fucking the
Reeve
Jolly West
Whitson.
stuff, the Jolly yeah, the Jolly West stuff. And it's good, but at the same time is it misses the sort of forest for the trees here, and it doesn't at all talk about like what Manson did at all. Like and that's kind of like almost one of the most interesting things in the family book. It's all like like literally it's like minute by minute everything these fucking people did essentially, and they were into everything. They were selling drugs, they were fucking pimping people out, they were making porn, which, I mean, you know what this all means, dude. It's all programmed to kill shit. They're doing snuff films, they're doing fucking they're pimping out women to famous people. They're videotaping it on the sly and going, now we have something over you have to give us X. And a lot of times that was usually just like 20 grand. Like they would be happy to get like 20 grand and then go on their way and then go do more fucking fucked up shit. And then they were also really, the other thing was, like, at the end of this, they were all really into building dune buggies.
Hell yeah, man.
They were into building dune buggies, and they were like doing Mad Max shit, like driving around the desert and shooting at each other and shit. And it's like
Spraying
they just needed a way to finance
their
this.
mouths.
Yeah. Yeah. They just needed a way to finance this. And so they did. There's so much right here. The first on the Wikipedia page for the Manson family crimes, the first one, they just shot a black drug dealer. What do you think that is? They were shooting their competition. Like,
oh, I thought they're gonna steal the money, steal it from him.
fine. That's another thing too, that you need to get a supply to sell drugs, right?
I was I'm
Bernard,
like
lots of Papa Crow.
yeah. Lots of papa. It sounds like he makes a great gumbo. I'm wondering though, like,
Sounds like he's got a lot of kids.
um
Cheering.
hey, Sheeran don't have a father no more. Oh no, he
No, he
survived.
lived.
What are you talking about? He
Yeah.
tested.
No, they didn't have a father,
Good.
whether he lived or died, dude.
Oh, sure. He was just doing his best. He came across Charles Manson one dumbass day. But yeah, that was supposed to be pitched as Manson thought he was a Black Panther, so he was trying to. This is the first. Do we talk about Manson first, or do we talk about Bugliosi?
Well, Bugliosi's a fucking clown. We already knew this because of the fact that he wrote that asinine book about why there was only Lee Harvey Oswald was the only shooter in the. That's another thing. It's like this guy is obviously a fucking either a moron or a spook.
Oh,
If
he's a spook.
I know he's a spook, but he's either that or he's a complete buffoon for doing the Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone shit. And the other thing is, in this book pretty gives the narrative is that complete psychopath. Like there's that whole story
He's a
about
huge
how,
piece of shit.
yeah, tell the thing about how what the milkman
Oh, that he thought that the milkman was cheating on
was fucking his wife and fathered his son, even though they'd done a DNA test. He still wasn't satisfied.
So he beat the shit out of the milkman.
No, he didn't beat him. He didn't beat him up. He stalked him. Remember?
That's right.
He had the DA's office all stalk him. They
He beat the shit out of that lady.
He beat the shit out of his girlfriend.
His mistress. So meanwhile, he's accusing his wife of having an affair, and he's fucking around with this woman, and he beats the shit out of her.
Real
to make
mad
her have a miscarriage.
Oh, geez, sorry.
He's like prime like compromised material. But not only that, like he seems like the type of guy that wants to be a part of it, but because he knows that if he sells his soul, that he's going to get all the fame and all the accolades. Like they're talking about the fact that as this case, like they were trying to solve the case, that Bugliosi was like chomping at the bit to get it and was already writing a book about it. Like,
Oh yeah.
that, like, he wanted to control the narrative. He was
Yeah.
a good boy. Like, he did exactly what his handler, like the handlers told him. And that was like another like thing that I started like freaking out about as I'm like listening, is like how much the LAPD, the LASFO, or no, LASO, and the LADA's office was all spooked out.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he actually very as soon as he starts talking about the LAPD in the book, pretty quickly it gets into the broad uh you know
Intelligence apparatus that they had on Hollywood. Yeah.
oh, that I thought you were going to talk about the great medical and dental plan they offered for employees, full-time employees. No, yeah, it was one of the largest intelligence gathering operations in the country. That was clearly being footed. The bill being footed by good old Uncle Sam, uh, with no receipts.
Yeah.
So
It's pretty notorious. In fact, I had they literally have the LA Sheriff's Department used to just have like the Masonic symbol as like their fucking badge. And I think like enough schizos posted it online that they were like, we gotta change this. And like they changed it like kind of recently, I think.
Yeah, Scott, like we were talking about this like in our chat, and he's like, yeah, the it's got all sorts of like Masonic imagery, and I'm like, it's a bear. And he's like,
Yeah.
oh
He's
yeah. And then he showed me like the original one, and I'm just like dumbfounded. I'm like, how
yeah,
could they
they
be
changed
so
it.
obvious about it?
was it the sheriff's badge?
Yeah.
Yeah, just Google
Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Okay, I see. It's a badge, a bear, a badge bear, a bear badge.
So Google old
yeah,
LASFO
right, yeah.
or LASO um badge or
But
logo.
anyway, while you're doing that, so the other thing is, and there's all this. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention the book also talks about there was extensive crossover between the family and I'll put it in the picture, the thumbnail image, by the way, on the of the episode. So if anyone's curious about it, but so there's a big crossover between the Manson family and all these neo-Nazi
Biker
motorcycle biker
gang.
gangs. There's like several. There's like the Straight Satans. There's like Satan soldiers. They're all SS, by the way. Um, but we already know this, dude. This is like not like a controversial thing to say, but those guys were the ones running the drugs for the CIA like in the 60s. It just was. And the other thing is that there's a fucking huge crossover with Charles Manson and the Process Church.
Thank you.
Um huge. And then there's whole months where Charlie sends girls to just go live with the Process in England. And
Yeah.
it's all I can't believe I was so shocked at like this was one of the things I was so shocked that O'Neill didn't talk about at all, because there's so much lore with the Process stuff, specifically in direct relation to the Son of Sam. And we, by the way, what do we know about the Son of Sam's? The those two guys, the actual sons of Sam. What were those guys' names, Patrick? The brothers, the ones
Ooh,
who were, one was high up in Scientology. Oh, that's the other thing. Scientology is right in throughout all this
Oh
too.
yeah, he only mentions the fact that Manson read about Scientology when he was
our
in.
brothers. I'm sorry.
The Carr brothers, yes, thank you. But the Carr brothers both died in fucking gangland shootings with bikers. With over drug sales and shit. Like,
My gosh, that's so sad.
oh, actually, that's not even true. Sam
Oh,
Carr, no, no, it's not. John Carr. John Carr. this is so fucked up because they made John Carr, they made him look like he committed suicide, if you recall. And that's like the MO of the fucking family too. When they said all these, they were talking about all these unsolved murders on the stand and stuff. And they were doing all these interviews and talking about, you don't even know how many murders we did. We made them all look like suicides. That's the same exact MO as the Process Church, the Chingon cult, it's called.
Yep.
Does that ring a bell? And
Yep.
apparently
Four
in Ed
pi.
Sanders, what's that?
4-pi is another iteration.
Yeah,
Or
Is it
4P, the 4P
is it
society. Yeah.
possible that Manson's trips to Mexico had to do with the Process Church? Because
I think it's probably to do with drugs.
well, because it says here its members initially lived in a commune in Mayfair, West London, before moving to Extol, or was it
Topanga
Atoll
Canyon, right?
in Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. They later established a base of operations in the United States in New Orleans. Prosecutors investigating.
No, New Orleans, really. I'd never heard of anything spooky that happened there.
Oh, wasn't there a club owner from New Orleans?
we're
Which
talking
one? You have to be more fucking
Oh,
specific.
the one who shot
JFK, yeah.
JFK, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, there was something about New Orleans and JFK, yes. But yeah, they ended up setting up shop at this place called the Spiral Staircase in 1967, which coincidentally is also the year that that Kill Manson left Roger Smith and the
San Francisco.
Haight Ashbury in San Francisco. He had gone down to L.A., hooked up. This is where he met Bobby Beausoleil too, by the way. Bobby Beausoleil was hooked in with the Process Church people after having leaving Kenneth Anger, and it's very complicated.
So he reads about Scientology in jail.
Right. But the Scientology, I'll give him this. The Scientology people were going to jail to be like, we can help you when you get out, kind of thing. So it was a new group and they did that. But and specifically there was one guy in there who was in there for pot, and he was giving people processing within the within Scientology in jail. Or sorry, auditing. He was auditing people in jail. And he was like kind of high up in Scientology, but he was like a hippie that smoked weed. And so when he came out, though, Manson was like, "Yeah, fuck Scientology because I want to be the boss, so I can't be a part of this thing. So I'm gonna do this, hang out with these splinter groups." Ends up falling in with this Chingon group. And so in Ed Sanders, the family, they say that Ed Sanders personally interviewed a bunch of members of the family, and they all said they referred to Charlie as a Chingnon, like meaning, and by the way, in the terminology of the gang, this is like what you would call the capo. As in the highest level is called the Grand Chingnon. And that's the thing. Charlie Manson is not even the top guy. He's not even Satan's top. Satan needs me. I'll be there for you, Satan.
Satan's top. So it's you just going over what's in Sanders' book. It is reminding me of just how like dense.
Derelict.
Yeah, like look, it's 500 pages. Good for you, dude. But there's so much.
It's all about him.
Yeah, man. I was going through the index and I looked. I was like, wait, what is this huge block?
Tom O'Neill's parents, Tom O'Neill's brother, Tom O'Neill's boyfriend, Tom O'Neill's
book deal of Bugliosi and Tom O'Neill, family of Tom. Yeah, Us Magazine, and it's maddening. I mean, it's as if there's not enough names in this already, dude. But the obvious overlap with the process
Son of Sam,
and more so I was thinking Manson's philosophy, theology, whatever he riffs on whenever he's drugging the shit out of people and putting them in company.
He's kind of does like Def Jam, that like our slam poetry style theology.
Yeah.
He just comes up with something clever, like it is. That's now canon.
Yeah, he's like a Satan worshipping beatnik.
Yes, really though. He hates hippies. That's the other thing. Like everyone goes, "Oh, he's the hippie killer. He's the hippie killer." He openly says, "I hate hippies. They threw a funeral for hippie." They threw a symbolic funeral to be like, okay, bye bye, hippie. We're no
I,
longer hippies. Bye
yeah,
bye, bye.
because the whole hippie movement was supposed to be about like peace and love.
Yeah, and he would
And
say,
this,
fuck that.
he was like, no, there's going to be this gigantic race. Well,
Well, I don't think he really thought that though.
no, I don't think he believed the whole helter skelter narrative,
No.
which we actually haven't really explained.
Well, that's because it's bullshit.
And of course, it's bullshit.
We'll get to that. I think we should start. Do we start with Manson from the beginning? Uh,
Okay,
just
well,
like,
he was molested by many people.
oh, dude, Indiana is such a horrible place.
He was the most molested guy ever, possibly.
Next to Jim Norton.
Nah, I don't know. No, you're right. Actually, that's true. The only difference is Charles Manson had charisma.
Yes, and
Hair.
he knew what to do with his hands.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Oh yeah. If anybody knows what to do with his hands, it's Charles Manson.
Yeah. Dude, I was literally, I was walking home and I read I was listening to a passage of it saying like you should see Charlie dance, man. When you watch Charlie dance, everyone leaves the floor. And I literally was thinking that gif of him doing the added in the Dance Dance Revolution things. Yeah.
It's the best, just the most. Yeah, when are we gonna start breaking out the Manson impersonations? Because all right, so this is what 9-year-old Charles Manson. My mom left me home alone.
She sold
um,
him for a pitcher of beer one time.
oh, yeah, and then the bartender was like, "All right, get to work," and yeah, that's where he lived for about 2 weeks before he.
You know, like in The Dark Knight, they talk about how like Bane was like born in darkness.
Oh man,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like that's what Charlie Manson was. Like he was legit born in hell.
He didn't choose the darkness. He was born in it, molded by it.
Yeah, like this kid never had a chance at
No,
all.
Yeah, many such
oh,
cases for the record, but yeah, he was
um,
institutionalized his entire life seemingly. And also another thing is this is something that almost I noticed in the Sanders write-up is that so after his first major stint in prison, he was in his early 20s and he
can
moves to
I?
LA to meet up with his mom who's moved from West Virginia to LA, and he immediately, what does he do? He starts pimping right away.
Oh, geez.
Because he was in jail with a bunch of black dudes who are like, listen here, young blood, this is what you got to do with a bitch.
Well, while I have the air, I'll just say this. He was also age 13, 14, a Western Union message boy for a time before they found that he was a runaway and was sent to the Indiana Boys School where he was repeatedly beaten and assaulted for 3 years.
And molested by older boys.
Oh, discovered with great magnanimity by the Reverend George Powers, who had him shipped off to Father Flanagan's Boys Town in Indianapolis.
Oh,
Oh,
He ran away from there 4 days later. So he could
I would too.
like he touches everything.
Yeah, he
Holy
does touch everything, man.
cow.
So for those not in the know, Boys Town is a major component of the Franklin scandal. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, I didn't know that, but
Whoa.
so he ended up for most of his young life, I think 13. So you're saying that's 13, is that right? And then 13 to 18, he was institutionalized in a corrective school or a corrective institution for boys, correct?
It was, yeah, this was basically over the 16, 18, and then when he was
Then he
around,
stole a car and as a 20-year-old, right, or something,
yep, yep.
and then spent a few more years in federal prison because he crossed state lines, if I'm not
I
mistaken.
let's not gloss over the fact that he also goes within the like year and a half that he's out of jail, he gets himself this poor woman pregnant, and there's
And he's pimping. He got her pregnant to get her dependent on him so he could pimp her out.
pimping, forging checks, 10-year prison sentence suspended, by the way, because a
Yeah.
woman cried out in the courtroom, "I love him. I'm gonna marry him." And he's like, "Look, judge, look, that's my wife."
And not just that, but so he was pimping out multiple women. The one, oh yeah, the woman who he got pregnant, she had an ectopic pregnancy, and he got her father to fly out from. Also, the father was spooked up too. By the way, it was really weird. But the to fly out from Chicago and pay a bunch of money to take care. Meanwhile, while the fucking wife is in jail, he fucks the roommate of the wife and turns her out that night as a prostitute. And then they were also making underground pornography at this point. So it's dude, they're already doing the shit. They're already doing blackmail stuff, I assume. I don't know. I'm not going to go so far as to speculate who's already hooked in
This
with
was
the
midnight
syndicate.
climax area, like time.
It was the late 1950s. I believe this is 1959 we're talking about, right?
Yes. Divorced by 58, so yeah, and then back to jail shortly after. In
And he spent a
15.
lot of time in jail. He spent based most of the 1960s in jail,
Yep.
which is where he got into Scientology.
Holy
Um,
shit.
what?
I had no idea that Angela Lansbury's daughter was a member of the family.
Oh yeah.
Holy shit. I had no idea.
Did
He
did
doesn't even
Michelle?
talk he doesn't even talk about that in the book.
No, he doesn't. It's in the Sanders book.
Who's Angela Lansbury for the folks at home?
The
Murder
one
She
who's Murder
Wrote,
She Wrote.
Bed Knobs and
Oh,
Broomsticks. I think was she Chitty Chitty Bang Bang?
I'm more confident with Bed Knobs and Broomsticks.
Yeah, yeah.
there was a mention of Michelle Phillips, that name in the book. Is that?
John Phillips's wife. Yeah.
Yeah, the mamas and the papas, because
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Mama Cass was friends with some of the drug dealers that were having beefs with the Frykowski. And they were all spooked out because they were associated with Charlie Tuckahoe. And where is that? Charlie Tuckahoe, his handler was Hank Fine, who was
Oy
like an
vey.
who was yeah, he was an OSS guy.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Shocker.
yeah. So like I said, this whole like everyone involved here is just spooked out.
Well, again, it's also worth mentioning again that speaking of David McGowan, of course, there's the weird scenes in the canyon. It's not my favorite of his books, but he goes very into detail with pretty much all these people are fucking connected. I mean, Jim Morrison's dad is the what do you call it? The
You
Oh, the Gulf of Tonkin.
Gulf of Tonkin guy. Yeah, Sharon
the
Tate's
one,
dad is USS Liberty.
yeah,
Military intelligence, yeah.
Yeah.
the one photo of I think the one photo that we typically see of Morrison and his father together is on the boat, is on the freaking
The Gulf of Tonkin boat. Yeah.
well, yeah, what the hell was it called? I
I don't
forgot.
know, but you just say Gulf of Tonkin incident that we all
Gulf
know
of
about it.
Tonkin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the Gulf of Tonkin, people. We have the documents.
folks, we have Charles Manson in the
Oh,
studio.
and then so I wrote this down. Jay Sebring has connections to Charlie Barron, uh, who has intelligence connections to General Curtis LeMay.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
right.
insane.
It's
The,
Curtis LeMay. I mean, he's the guy that Jack D. Ripper is based on in the fucking Doctor
Strange
Strangelove.
love.
Also, if
so
I'm not mistaken, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, fucking Paul Towns, I think is his name is the one who wrote the screenplay for Doctor Strangelove, and he was at a Tate party with he was at the Tate party with Frykowski, ended up beating up that guy and fucking his ass at the
The other
party.
Polish guy,
Yeah.
the
gentlemen,
other
no
drug
fighting in
dealer,
the war room. Come
Yeah.
on.
who that guy apparently was also because he was in the Pick Dawson, Charlie Tuckahoe contingent, and
Yeah.
obviously they were all drug dealers um who were intelligence as well.
Yes.
And I I don't know where all of my oh yeah, So we haven't even talked about this Reeve Whitson guy.
I was just gonna bring up Reeve Witz's. Yeah, I will. I'll give Tom a nice pat on the back for this one. This chapter was fairly well researched. There was one little detail that really made me fucking hair stand on end. And so he's talking about this Reeve Whitson guy, and we'll get into him in a minute. The guy's a spook. I mean, he's very clearly a spook. Tom wrote in our letter to the CIA and said, "Hey, do you guys what? I'd like any FOIA information about Reeve Whitson. Was he a CIA agent?" And they said, we can neither confirm or deny," which you know what that means. Um,
Yes.
On that note,
but
I think I hear hippies in my bathroom, so don't mind me. Keep talking. I'll be.
sure. Well, this is really funny. I didn't say this to you. This is important. I want you to hear this little tidbit. You turned your mic off. You can't wait. He has to go pee.
Go
So
pee.
I guess we'll
I
do
can hear you. I can hear you. I'll be in the loop. I'm
okay, sounds good. So the thing was that really bothered me is he goes, so Reeve Whitson, he was a friend of Otto Scornesi. And you know who Otto Scornesi was? He was a Nazi. And you know what? He would have gotten convicted of war crimes for the Holocaust. But if he hadn't been friends with American intelligence. And I said, "Damn it, Tom, you're a fucking liar."
bam, bam, bam.
Go on, do me a favor. Anyone who's listening to the show right now, go on the Otto Scornesi page of
Otto
Wikipedia,
Scorsese.
whatever it is.
Well, isn't by proxy if you're a
But
member
it
of.
doesn't say. There's no little American flag there. It's an
Well,
Israel
no,
flag.
but that's by
You
proxy, isn't
buried the
it?
lead.
You
You buried
you
the lead. He was a double A. We actually have an episode coming up in a few weeks with a new guest, by the way. We're gonna do a full episode on this fella. But I just thought it was pathetic of Tom to not just say that he was a double agent for the Mossad and he didn't have anything to do with besides I guess being friends with Reeve Whitson, um having anything to do with the CIA, frankly. I just thought that it's fairly ridiculous not to mention that he was a Mossad agent. That he's the only Nazi to ever be a Mossad. That's like a fun tidbit, Tom.
Well, that's why his name's not Tidbit Tom, is it?
I guess not.
so do you think that Reeve Whitson is Manson's handler in LA?
No, I don't. I think
No.
Roger Smith is his hand. Oh, in
Yeah.
LA. I see what you're saying.
Oh,
Um, I don't
right.
know who it is. I think he was his own handler. I don't think you necessarily need a direct handler, but he was a guy who was in the field with him for
He's the
sure.
guy you let cook on his own. You just
Yeah, for sure. But Reeve Whitson was this guy, and he had insinuated himself like in 6 ways into Hollywood, essentially. And he was like a good friend of the Polanski and Tate. He was always at the parties. And what was his connection to Manson though, other than being in
So
the same circles?
so they claim that Reeve Whitson was there with Manson the night of the murders, like staging the scene. Because
What
there's
was
this
the
whole
evidence for that though?
there was something about glasses.
He knew about the
yes.
glasses that they had left.
Well, so there's this whole thing where Sharon Tate and Roman
Haruk
Plan,
Hatami.
yeah, the he was their
Oh, I
photographer.
remember. I remember what the
Y-
proof is. Haruk Hatami was the guy who called in to the police that Sharon Tate was dead.
Yes, but he was the one who got a call from Reeve Whitson.
Right.
He got tipped off by that. Um and my
Reeve
I
Whitson
wrote
had called Haruk Hatami, who is a spook. Obviously, he's an Iranian. He's an Iranian national in Hollywood. Um, and he's the guy he was also, what do you call it? He was a major witness in the Bugliosi case.
well, and,
There.
it's funny. Roman comes home and he's like, take pictures of me as he's like going through a crime scene where his
Yeah.
wife, his like best
Yeah.
friend, like all of these people that he claimed to care about, he's just so like he's such a vapid, vain piece of shit. He's having this guy photograph him while he reacts because he knew that his wife and unborn child were getting murdered.
Yeah, well, I think that was like a strategic thing to be like, oh, look, I'm so sad I am. Obviously, I didn't do it.
Look, it's me here after the murders, sitting
Yeah, and looking
there.
sad to boot.
Murders.
Yeah, but he would
Can't
have
you
had witnesses.
empathize with me?
He had witnesses in London saying he was in London. That's like halfway around the world.
Um,
Yeah, I don't know.
and he's always with Cary Grant. No, sorry, wrong. Warren Beatty.
Yes.
It's
He's
always with
often with Warren Beatty, yes.
yeah. Cary Grant's somewhere else taking LSD, in the ear, but like Warren Beatty's with I it came up a few times. The
He's
phrase
got a pretty mouth, to be fair.
partying with
So.
Warren Beatty came up several times. I'm like, that's just a thing now, isn't it?
Well, because back then Warren Beatty was like one of the it guys. Like he
True.
Yeah, but
was,
he was Polanski's guy all the time, and he was doing all these.
yeah, because they were probably all getting pussy together.
True. They didn't have a cool nickname though, did they? For their
The
little
Pussy Posse. Yeah, it was the fucking
Oh, I thought it was the golden penetrators.
yeah, that too. Yeah.
Oh, jeepers.
But again, that's it's Doris Day, who was at the time like one of America's sweethearts, like one of the biggest actresses in the world. It's her son, who's a record producer. How is he
Huge
not?
record producer too, not just any record producer. This guy's from is responsible for some fucking real iconic songs.
And then a fucking Beach Boy.
Dennis Wilson, of course, the most troubled of the Wilson bro. That's a
I don't
tough
know.
one.
No, I've heard stories about Brian.
Nah,
Depends
I
on
know. Well, you know what? Most of his fucking stories about he had a spiral about how the Jews were trying to kill him, which I mean, based on some of this kind of fucking shit, I'm finding out. I'm not surprised that he fucking felt that way.
Who, Brian or Dennis?
Brian had he had a big meltdown. One of the anecdotes that I remember hearing and laughing my ass off was he had a meltdown. He went to go see a movie and the music was the score was composed by Phil Spector, and he thought that this was like a Jewish plot. They were like letting him know that they were gonna kill him
let
or
me tell
something.
you
He
something
ran
there,
out of the
man.
theaters.
That wall of sound's trying to kill me, man. Jews, man, they're trying to kill
Also,
me.
not for nothing, his Jewish psychiatrist got power of attorney over him and basically locked him in a fucking house for like 6 years, to be fair. So,
Tale as old
round,
as time.
round,
Round
Dave.
I get around. I love
No,
that song.
no. Um, yeah. But imagine him running out of the theater. Is that Brian Wilson?
yeah.
He must be late. Round,
Um,
there she was around. Woo! So,
Wait, do you
uh,
think that round is really about Charlie Manson? Because that guy sure gets around.
he did
hey,
get around, but I think that predates them knowing Charlie Manson. During the time period in which they, I gotta say, the album that they were cutting while the Charlie Manson influence was going on is mwah, great.
Is
And
that
actually,
the
I gotta say, I really like the Charlie Manson song they recorded.
is that
Never learn not how to love. Never not learn how to love, rather.
is that the Ecology album?
There is an ecology song on the no. You're thinking of sorry, you're thinking of Surf's Up. And that one's a good album too, but you're thinking of the water. Yeah, stay away from the water.
My mom told me about like there's this a whole concept album that they had put out that was like about ecology or something,
They
right?
have there's a rock opera song that's about 9 minutes long where Van Dyke's Parks, who makes an appearance in this book, by the way. Van Dyke's Parks is the singer of it. He's the only Beach Boys song that doesn't have any of the Wilson family singing on, at all. Actually, that's not true. They're doing backups. What am I talking about? But they have the song called why am I talking about this on the Charles Manson episode? But
How can we not talk about the
why?
Beach Boys on
sure.
Charlie
They have a
Manson?
This is
song.
the
They have
time,
a
dude.
song called Story of a Tree or something like that. And it's very sad. It's a story about a tree that's dying and it knows it's dying. And yeah, that's probably what your mom's talking about. And
Okay.
there's another song on that same album that is also about like water environmentalism and stuff like that. And I will say this, that's the next album after this is called for this time period where they were hanging out with Charles Manson is the time period they recorded two albums, Friends and 2020, which was later released as a double album. That's how I consumed it as a kid. But it is fucking phenomenal period of the Beach Boys. And right after that, that's when they started going downhill for a while. Although it's not even true. They had a bunch of great albums after that. Sunflower, fucking, so many great stuff. But I digress.
Folks,
Um,
check them out. Check out these new
I
guys
know
on
this
the.
crazy guys you've never heard of before, the Beach Boys. Although I will say, when I like say, "Oh, I love the Beach Boys," I'll like fucking Browns. I remember I mentioned Browns. I mentioned in the group chat at one point in the past, like I like the Beach Boys, and Brown says like, "Hey, what do you like to listen to, Kai Kamai?" And it's like,
Yeah.
no, oh my god, nobody listens to that. That's like literally, it's more well known. I know you know about it because of the fucking Muppets. Let's be honest. That's why everybody knows that fucking song is because of the fucking Muppets.
And Cocktail.
Oh
Oh,
yeah, it's in that. Ugh.
way down on Cielo
But
Drive.
that's not the Beach Boys though. That
It's
that
Mike
is
Love, yeah,
it's Mike Love and John Stamos. That's
literally, yes,
not the Beach Boys. Sorry, it's the Wilson
literally is,
brothers.
yeah.
The Wilson brothers are the Beach Boys.
And
Next
Al
one.
Jardine and
And
Bruce
I'll join you.
Johnston.
Yes.
Linda Kasabian. I'm trying to.
I hate that song so much. I'm not gonna play along.
I'm sorry. Um, uh, can we just address the fact that in 1968 in the Haight Ashbury, the Process Church was walking around fully decked out in hooded black robes with the goat of Mendes emblems on it. Uh,
Yes.
yeah, these are not. These are the guys that you see. This is not like the beheadings going on beaches and shit. This, real good stuff.
These are not like the what do you call it? The German Shepherd
Oh,
sacrifices going on in a literal sewer drain in fucking Poughkeepsie. No, it was Yonkers.
yeah. Oh, so, and folks, if you want to be like just totally disoriented, go to the Best Friends Animal Society Wikipedia.
Oh no.
Look at that emblem, that logo, and know that the that 12 of the original process members were the ones that started that after the group's reputation started to peter out in 75. So you have this group take that logo. All right, now go to YouTube, search Nat Geo, National Geographic, Dogtown show. Within 10 seconds, I see a dude like holding a dog on a table, and he's got a t-shirt with the Best Friends Animal Society uh uh yeah
I didn't
logo.
know that. So was this like a TLC show about dog people?
Nat Geo,
Oh, Nat
National
Geo.
Geographic.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's
So
Disney.
it's just like this it's an older show. I don't know much, but it just seems to be like oh no, this dog, it's about to fall into a meat processor, but luckily we were there to save
Oh
it
my
and
God.
wash it off and give it a home.
Yeah. Didn't also Paul McCartney have something to do with them when they were that organization as well?
Why not take a peek?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because
Oh,
I remember recently trying to find the connection between Paul McCartney and the process, and I was having trouble, but it just jogged my memory when you were talking about this, that it's probably that aspect of the process he was in with.
Excuse me.
But anyway, so there's a couple other really crazy things. While we're talking about the process,
Oh, I could bring up the
are
fact
all
that one of the guys from the LAPD, Herman, was
yeah,
involved in
that's
this.
what I'm going to now. Yeah, 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 yeah. So he wasn't in the LAPD, he was in the LA Sheriff's Office.
Sorry.
Yeah. And this was the guy who was the responding officer to the Gary Hinman murder. So I said this before. Gary Hinman was a guy who they thought that had gotten $20,000, and they were just constantly trying to scheme to get money. And went to his house to be like, Gary, give us all of your fucking money. We're gonna kill you right now. And he was like, guys, I gotta tell you, I don't have any money. I got like $1,000 and I already spent it. And
On this sick guitar. Look at it.
yeah. And and they were like, that's bullshit. We know you have the money. And then so they're like, all right, we're gonna kill you and make it look like an accident. They didn't. They kill him and didn't make it look like an accident. We're very suspicious. I believe the police came while they were there.
A
And
saber was employed.
yeah, there's a saber. Yeah. But the
Yeah.
police came and they're like, hey, is Gary home? And they're like, and the one of the Manson girls goes, Gary's not here. I'm from England and Gary's gone over there. So you better look for him there. Bye. And
And
the police were
the
like,
cops are
that was
just like,
fucking weird.
okay, that was weird.
What was that? A French woman? What was that?
Yeah. And they
Only
eventually
because-
come back, and now he's dead of suicide, air quotes, in his house. And they also
Who-
found his car. No, they found Bobby Beausoleil sleeping, sleeping off a hangover in the car. And yeah, and
They're legit the gang that can't shoot straight, and
yeah.
it's like they can't do anything fucking right.
Well,
They
they're always
always
high on acid.
That's true, but like they even Charlie can't do anything right.
Yeah,
Charlie,
that's why he
Oh,
doesn't try to do anything but dance and talk and fuck. Can't lose if you don't play.
I suppose.
um but yeah, so okay, sorry. So anyway, this guy who arrested Bobby Beausoleil in the car and was in the investigation of the Gary Hinman murder, is this guy named Herman. And just with absolutely no preface, no remark at all, that Tom O'Neill reports that he was the guy who, quote, solved the Cotton Club murder.
yeah.
And so, okay, the Cotton Club murder figures heavily into the entire Son of Sam thing, by the way. It was a contract killing that was, and by the way, I love how they solved it. No, they fucking didn't. Even if they did solve it in the sense that they caught the woman who was responsible for the contract murder, they didn't catch the assassin. It's not, so how could they even be sure that there was a contract murder going on? It's absurd. So what happened was the same Chingon gang that Manson was apparently a part of. I only found out today. They had conducted a contract killing on this guy named Roy Raiden. And he was the son of like a guy who had owned the original Cotton Club in the Bronx in New York City, and he himself was like a music concert producer on Long Island, and he did these revival shows of like vaudeville acts and like 1950s like. He got like the what's the name of that band that does I Don't Want to See the World set up, the Ink Spots. He like got the Ink Spots and like shitty like one hit wonder doo-wop.
Comics like Henny Youngman and
Exactly. Yeah. And he put together these massively successful Long Island like comedy slash music reviews
oh
that
god,
Long
that's still
Island
going
boomers
on.
loved and
That's
made a
still going
fucking
on.
fortune off of it. And once he became rich doing this, he got into the occult, he got into the process. He got interested in
Movies.
movies too. Well, we'll get to that, but it's worth mentioning that in his, well, I guess he was interested in a very special kind of snuff movie as well, because supposedly the what's the name of the girl who was like the most like shocking murder of in the Son of Sam killing? There was in the car out, and they were killed, shot in the car in the park at the Lovers Lane.
Hold on.
No, it doesn't matter. That's the one of the most famous murders in that. Look it up if you want. It doesn't matter. But it turns out that was a snuff film that was made, shot on orders of Roy Raiden. And this is all in Ultimate Evil by Maury Terry, by the way. So check that book out.
Are you talking about the one that was the picnic?
No,
No,
they were in a car making out.
because that picnic one
It was the one
definitely.
who was blonde, and everyone
Yeah,
was like, "It'll never be a blonde girl," and it
no, I know
was.
what you mean. I just wanted to because I always thought of the picnic killing
Oh,
that.
was it Rosemary Keenan?
No,
Either way,
doesn't matter. But it was the one that was a snuff film being filmed, because a lot of those
we-
were all retaliations for they were like, better not talk about my selling drugs kind of thing, or it was and then they, and again, I want to make sure that this doesn't sound too woo woo. It's not woo woo at all. When I say that this is, first of all, this is a drug cartel, and very much when you think of the drug cartels now, they very much do occult rituals before they kill people. It's a fact.
oh yeah,
The Santa Muerte cult, they call it, and MS-13 is like almost all of them are a part of this weird esoteric Santeria cult that is tied up into the machinations of their gang, and it's a way to keep them from talking, because it's like, oh, my religion is tied up into this gang, this drug enterprise I'm in. And this is the same exact thing that was going on in the 1960s and 70s and 80s, in all across America, probably still today. But in the West Coast, you saw these guys with these SS motorcycle clubs, the Satanist Nazi motorcycle clubs. They were selling drugs, and they had a cult component, and they were hanging out with Charles Manson, who was selling drugs and initiating his guys into this weird process cult. Um, and in the Son of Sam stuff, same thing. They did not go to the police because they had this like, they did this blood ritual together. Oh yeah, part of it was you had to show pictures of your parents. Now, and this is a great way to get people in your group to give up information like that, in order, and then be like, yeah, it's just part of our little gay little ritual that we do. But Dave, what's his name from the
yeah.
Son of Sam guy?
Berkowitz?
Berkowitz. David Berkowitz was like, I knew I shouldn't have, but I wanted to have friends, so I did it.
Um,
Essentially. And
Wow.
he got him on the hook, basically, and he had to keep his mouth shut all those years.
hey,
About
sorry, real quick. This was just something that like I moved a sticky note an inch and I found this where the first school that in Indiana that Manson got sent to, the Gabalt uh, home for boys in Terre Haute, Indiana.
Yeah.
The penitentiary there was where McVeigh went to, and they housed McVeigh and currently houses Dylan Roof.
Yeah, isn't that like with where
Columbine.
the isn't it called the Supermax?
It was at the time the penitentiary Terre Haute. Either way, I think
Isn't that where now the Supermax is though? DTX Supermax. I don't know. Oh, so I was talking about the Cotton Club murder.
yes,
So
yes.
Roy Raiden got into this this witch woman he knew through the cult, put him in contact with what's his name? Robert Evans, notably producer of Chinatown, Rosemary's Baby, the list goes on, all these Roman Polanski movies. Um
The Godfather.
and the Godfather too. Many, many movies. He's nothing to sneeze at.
He
But
didn't do that. That was Coppola. So
what?
When
Coppola did The Godfather.
I just said produced.
Oh, did he produce it?
yeah,
Yeah,
Robert Evans was a bigwig producer at Paramount, and he
Robert Evans never directed a movie in his life.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Excuse me.
Kid Notorious.
But yeah, so he also used this crazy witch woman in the process to get someone in the Chignon cult to murder Roy Raiden, because he wanted too much money for this adaptation, this movie called The Cotton Club, um, and which was a flop, by the way. So it was a bad deal. It's probably best that he got killed after. uh, Also, I mean, he was like a Satanist murderer, and also he got away with like beating and raping a woman in Long Island too, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they intimidated her into withdrawing her fucking her claim or whatever. And but yeah, so he got murdered by the same guy supposedly who was a part of the family. Supposedly the guy who did the killing was a part of the lesser part of the family. We don't know who he is because Maury Terry wouldn't say who he is, but um he also is the one who murdered that girl in the Berkeley cathedral. There's like a cathedral in Stanford, a Stanford Cathedral. There's a cathedral, a Catholic church in Stanford, uh and yeah, and there was a murder there, and it was the Qingnan people. And it was it was actually she knew too much or something. She knew something about the drug thing.
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about. That poor woman. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had no idea any of
St.
anything about
Mary's
any of this.
Cathedral was.
It's all you gotta, dude, you gotta, when you get done with this, you gotta read fucking or Ultimate Evil of Mary Terry.
Yeah, I remember we watched a documentary on Netflix, a very normie, The Sons of Sam, which kind of
Yeah.
goes into this, and they talk about Maury Terry.
Yeah.
They did an okay job of saying what he thought. Of course, they do the limited hangout thing. He's kind of crazy. He didn't know what he was talking about. A lot of this was bullshit, but it's not bullshit. It's all real. And yeah, so Robert Evans, known associate of fucking Roman Polanski, is hiring the Charles Manson cult, the Charles Manson like associated cult, to murder another occult guy from the East Coast in a drug slash movie deal thing.
Holy shit.
And it's not even like like there's no hiding it. On Wikipedia, it even says for this Roy Braden's Wikipedia page, it says Robert Evans was implicated in the murder for blah blah blah. He took the fifth on the stand. Like it just says that on the Wikipedia page.
What's wrong with that? He's within his rights.
I suppose.
I mean,
And then it also says, oh, but afterwards, the insane woman who ended up taking the fall for it said that Robert Evans had nothing to do with it. Oh, okay. Pack it up, boys. The insane woman said he had nothing to do with it. Let's get out of here. Robert Evans, rich millionaire Satanist, has nothing to say to fear.
the woman who brought her shopping cart into the courtroom has decided to take the whole thing onto her shoulders.
The other thing is we're almost exclusively talking about Jewish people right now. By the way, this is everyone in this story is Jewish. This part: Roy Raden, Robert Evans, the woman, the crazy woman.
Yeah, she had a very Jewish last
Yeah.
name.
And Robert Evans' real last name isn't Evans, just so you know.
No, he's very Jewish too.
Yeah. But my point is also it was insane to me that Tom O'Neill just steps over the Cotton Club murder. Why did he even bring it up?
Well, I don't know, because like the last like I want to say quarter of the book has nothing really to do about Charlie Manson. It's all about Jolly West,
Which is established conspiracy lore. Anyone who knows anything about MK Ultra already knows all of that shit.
Yeah.
Again, this is a limited hangout to get some new normies into
Yeah, I
like,
know.
okay, this is what really happened. You know, this is what we were just about to talk about. Like, I'm hearing about this Herman guy, and then the next thing I know, he's in Vietnam working on the Phoenix Project.
Yes, so the same guy was in the Phoenix program. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay. And then they're like, he's like, oh yeah. And then the LADA Younger was a member of the OSS.
I know. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you know that guy, the deputy DA Buck Lynn Compton? Oh, he was a band of brothers. He was
Yeah,
an
that's
easy
right.
company.
Yeah. He was also
You know,
in something else too, right? After the war.
Yeah, he was intelligence.
Well, yeah, I know. But after World War II, though, he did something else in Korea, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't make a note on that. But
what was his
his name was Buck Lynn Compton, or Lynn Buck Compton.
Yeah, it's funny. Tom O'Neill is literally like a child saying swear words that it doesn't understand. he's like saying all these names, and it's like, yeah, Tom, okay, do you know where you are right now? Because if
You're in the jungle, baby.
Yeah, well, but then the next thing they start talking about is Larry Schiller and Jerry Cohen.
Oy vey.
And
Yeah,
like
they're OSS too, right? Yeah, and they're Mockingbird. Mockingbird.
they are both like assets where they're like running like PR. Like they're
Yeah.
the one writing the news articles
Yeah, that's
for
Mockingbird. Yeah. That's the Grand Wurlit. They're the Mighty Wurlitzer rather.
yeah, it like I said, every time like when I started paying a little more closer attention, I was like, okay, this person's intelligence now, this person's intelligence, and
Yeah.
like the whole book is just oozing people who were working in intelligence. And it's like, how do you not come to the conclusion that the Manson murderers was an op?
oh, but yeah, Buck Compton, lead prosecutor in the trial of Sirhan Sirhan.
Oh, come on.
I knew there was something. You were right. You guys were right. I was like, something.
It's ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous.
It's
Also,
like
another
me.
thing, you know what? That actually I remember this. So I remember I was when I was listening to this, I noticed that this guy who was in fucking they based Band of Brothers on it. I go, oh, even Band of Brothers was an op. Dude, everything is
Oh,
ridiculous, man. Of course they just picked it just so happens that the movie that the squad of only 40 guys, I think, that this movie was made about, or iconic TV series is made about, they're spooks.
Well, I wouldn't say all of them are
I
spooks,
know
but
that guy
definitely
was.
that guy was a spook.
Yeah.
He was apparently working with Herman. Um,
that Herman guy was quite the read, though. I hadn't seen that name before. I will be honest. Um, he was a frightening character. The fact that he was the numbers guy, the spreadsheets guy for Phoenix.
Right.
He almost certainly came up in Valentine's book, I'm sure.
He had to have, yeah.
Yeah. I'm definitely forgetting it then. But yeah, either way, yeah, you can't. There's nowhere, and it's funny because
And then Tom doesn't even fucking go for a guy who supposedly made this fucking serpentine diagram of all these connections. He certainly missed a few.
and I'll be honest, when I saw the photo in the book of his whiteboard, I thought that's bullshit.
Wait,
That's what
there's the picture? I only listened to the audiobook, so
yeah,
let,
I only listened to the audio.
allow me, folks, because let's be honest here. 20 years of work. Okay. I could have put this, either way. This is the whiteboard. It's just one whiteboard. I don't know how well that's coming across.
I can
Oh,
see.
wow.
I can't read the names on it, but it's not that complex, is what I
No.
can definitely see.
Well, my thing is like, why are you cramming all this shit into this one whiteboard? It just seems to me like if he was really, I don't know, there's a better way to do this.
I think he mentions this a couple of times in the book where like he's like there were so many dead ends. Like we talked about that Charlie Tuckahoe guy and all those other drug
Yeah.
dealers that were like rival intelligence drug dealers. That was a
Yeah.
dead end. That didn't lead anywhere, really.
I agree. I don't think that was the motive.
No, I mean, yeah, talk about dead ends, all that detour about was he or was he not raped? It's like a woman is dead. And we're taking asides here about a guy asking his buggy to check his ass out. What Tom, focus.
Again,
Yeah.
that was the thing. Like every time he'd like find some new lead, he'd chase it down. And so a lot of these leads led to dead ends. It was only when he would take these like leaps of faith where he's like, well, no one really talks about Charlie Manson in San Francisco, but Charlie Manson had this whole
Okay.
life in San Francisco.
Good transition. Good transition. So let's talk about arguably the most compelling part of the book, the original interviews with Roger and David Smith. So Roger Smith is a confirmed CIA asset, working for the Nat NIM. Literally 2 weeks
Yep.
ago, we did the Secret of NIM.
Yep.
NIM funds rat studies to be conducted using LSD and speed, and then
Rat,
they,
mouse, who gives a shit?
yeah. Oh yeah, that's another whole aspect. They
Yeah.
kind of fuzzy as to whether they're rats or mice. Meaning, by the way, to me, which says to me, maybe this is what O'Neill wanted to get across, is like they weren't being very scrupulous with this fucking with this research, and it seemed like they just were doing it so they could get onto the human trials, sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Or if they even happened at all outside of the bare what was necessary
Right,
to get down on paper. Because what he was really worried about was work in the room, work in the lobby, in the free clinic.
right.
That was his
And I also will say this is that I noted in the I was listening to the Ed Sanders book, the Folger family was a major benefactor for the Haight Ashbury Free Clinic. Can you
Oh
believe that?
God. Holy shit. It just, how do you not like read this book and go, what the fuck?
Yeah,
oh yeah. Yeah. This is dizzying. The
yeah.
amount of I can understand why your whiteboard might look like that, Mr. O'Neill. There's a lot of crisscrossing motivations and yeah.
But all right, so this is one of my notes I have here. One of the judges in Northern California that had taken leniency on the Manson girls ends up being Doris Day and Terry Melcher's lawyer, like during the Manson trial.
There's only so
Bit
many
of a
people.
conflict of interest, wouldn't you say?
I mean, there's only so many people to do so many jobs. Sometimes you got to do a couple different things
I
at a
mean, it
time.
is the legal system, to be fair. There's a limited amount of hats.
Yeah.
There's Manson's parole file was not allowed to be subpoenaed during the
Yeah, that's
trial.
absurd.
Um,
Well,
and then
it would reveal the Roger Smith thing. I'm guessing is they didn't want the first of all, like again the fact that there was so many letters. I'm sure between the arresting officers and his parole officer, Roger
well,
Smith.
what they tried to do was blame was it, I think his name was Charlie Barrett, and he
Hmm.
was supposed to be Manson's PO after Roger Smith like quit being a
Right,
PO officer, and they tried to basically make him a patsy and put
right,
all of the stuff that Smith was doing on Barrett. And
sure.
Barrett's like, nope, not me. But yeah, it's I have here the NIT program, National, or is it yeah, NIT, or is it NIM?
Yeah, and so okay, well, NIT is the national. Sorry, it's the. Well, I think that was the program where they were doing this like new
Yeah,
way. There was a
Our
program that they were doing the new way to run
parolees.
the parolees, and it was a program. It was experimental program through NIM, and also by the way, the rat studies were also done through NIM. But yeah, Roger Smith was working for both of these, and he in his capacity as a parole officer. The average caseload was like 40 guys, but Roger Smith just magically only had one, Charlie Manson. And
enough.
it was concurrent with the time period in which he was running this Haight Ashbury free medical clinic, which is confirmed to be a CIA
Yeah,
front
Trump.
that where they did experiments on the hippies in exchange for like free chlamydia, what do you call it, screening and like penicillin and shit,
And
and because
abortions. Don't forget
abortions too. Let's not forget those
abortions.
federally funded abortions. Um, but and also the other thing is Jolly West worked there too.
Yeah.
He literally
Gave him
worked
an
in the
offer.
office with him.
They offered him because he was busting his ass. He was decking out a cool hip pad for he was doing the midnight
Midnight
climax.
Climax. Yeah, Midnight Climax. Exactly. Yeah. Midnight
Uh,
Climax for I don't know if we've ever discussed it directly on the show, but it was a Jolly West directed program where they would make fake whorehouses and hire fake whores, except they were real whores, and they would get Johns, and then the whores
Dose the
would
Johns.
dose them with LSD, and then they would lock them in there, and then look at them through two-way mirrors and shit, and figure out how people. They would do different experiments and try different dosages, and and then sometimes they would like black bag them and fucking take them and interrogate them and shit like that. I'm sure many people's lives were ruined in the process of this, by the way. Just think about the trauma that would entail. You know what I mean? Like getting like tortured, most likely satanically tortured by some sick, fat Jewish CIA doctor.
I can, speaking of dosing and such, were you going to talk about the amphetamine LSD
You
ratio?
do that now. I didn't. Yeah, go ahead.
Because so there was a point where O'Neill puts it straight to him. Given how eerily Smith's research prefigured the creation of the family under David's nose and the hate during the summer of '67, I wondered if he had deliberately underreported it. I've never come close to proving that he did, but I haven't been able to explain the holes in it either. Why would he use LSD to induce suggestibility in rats before injecting them with amphetamines and making them berserk? Because those were the conclusions of each of their studies. LSD makes them suggestible, and amphetamines makes them ravenous and murderous. But they're also, why are you doing those now in conjunction, those studies, and why does that also seem to parallel the exact drug flow that's going through the hate right now?
And not just that, but also specifically through the cult that you have direct contact with on a regular basis.
And the files from ARP, the ARP, I think is the program.
It's called the Amphetamine Research Project.
Yeah. Not to be confused with the what was
AARP, which is what Anthony Cumia subscribes to.
But it got burglarized one night, and Roger lost all of his.
Oh, the files, yeah.
Oh boy, yes. I have
What are you
Oh
gonna do?
shucks, not again. It's building 7 all over again. It's the Oklahoma. It's the Francis P. Murrah building all over again.
Watergate. Look into those Watergate guys. I hear they're up to something. Oh wait, it's 1969. Never mind. I mean, don't look at those Watergate guys.
I mean, they were up to plenty. I mean,
yeah, where was E. Howard Hunt at this time?
That's a great question. What was E. Howard Hunt up to in 1969?
Well, he was working in the Nixon administration.
Was he already? I thought, yeah, maybe, I suppose.
All those guys were kicking around Washington.
Oh, man.
He was doing Bay of Pigs shit.
It is. Again, it's just, I don't think maybe Dave Smith was as tuned in as Roger Smith or Jolly West, but it just seems so
Dave
strange.
Smith, and he's just like, how about Dave Smith? And he's like
going on about liberty.
Yeah, no, not about liberty. He's talking about how like the vaccine is like it's bad for something. I don't know, fucking. I'm trying to figure. I don't even know. Here's the thing. I was gonna try to make a Dave Smith reference, but I gotta be honest. I haven't seen anything that Dave's. He's just telling a story. He's I got it. It's David Smith. Perfect. Sorry about all that static before. It's David Smith, and he's restating everything Roger Smith says in a less funny way.
All right.
That's what Dave Smith does on Legion of Skanks.
Got it. No.
Yeah.
So and that's what I'll do here now, is Dave Smith which one?
The researcher.
He's the actual like doctor. Roger Smith is a spook who was running a front of being Charlie Manson.
Yeah, Roger Smith never even finished his PhD.
Yeah, like David Smith was the actual MD who like became a hippie. Roger Smith was just a CIA
guy. Researcher in his own right, I suppose.
Okay. Yeah, but he's sending Charlie Manson down to like pick up drugs all the way down to Mexico or deal with this cult down in Mexico. And, you know,
Yeah.
you have Jolly West in the same office. Do they sit Charlie down and go, hey, Charlie, you should try doing X, Y, and Z? Or like, how are they getting Charlie the information that he needs to do, like to create the right cocktail of LSD and speed? Or, like that is like my big question is,
I, yeah.
what did they sit him down and go, okay, Charlie, like we need you to do X, Y, and Z, and if you run into any trouble, call this number, we'll take care of it.
I
That's
assume
true.
that if you ever, Jared, have you ever played the video game Hotline Miami?
No.
Okay, it's a great game, and I don't think it's actually like it's schizo it's schizploit. It's what me and Patrick called schizploitation. It's like a piece of media that sort of it's like inviting to people who are into conspiracies and stuff, but it's not actual like lore or anything. But in it, you play as like a psychotic DID contract killer, and you get phone calls, and they say, hey, my friend needs help over at this address. And then you go, and then it's a house full of Russian mobsters, and you try to get as high a score as possible
By
by
killing.
killing them all as quickly and effectively as possible. That's the game. I assume what Charles Manson would occasionally get was a call from someone disembodied voice who say, hey, my friend Sharon Tate or fucking my friend Wojciech Wojtkowski in down at 10050 Salo Drive needs some help with a fucking cat or whatever it is.
All right.
And
Let's do the bit. I'll be Charlie. Ring the phone.
no, we're not doing an act
Damn
out.
Oh.
It would be a different if you know what the Hotline Miami reference was.
I mean, the soundtrack alone is worth checking.
It's pretty dope. It is pretty dope. But
Charlie Manson.
I'll be right there. Well, the whole bit with the game is that he never says anything.
Oh, well, still, either way.
But yeah. So the thing is the other thing this is another thing that really pissed me off about this fucking Tom O'Neill book was he doesn't bring up the Esalen Institute once.
What's that?
Thanks for not knowing what it is because you only read this book, and that's okay. But it's Tom O'Neill's fault you don't know who the Esalen Institute is. The Esalen Institute is a CIA-backed human potential project.
Like a futurist type of.
It was well, you know that Echo guy, John C. Lilly.
That sounds.
He worked
familiar.
out of there. He worked out of
the guy. The day of the dolphin
guy. Yeah. Oh, the day of the dolphin.
Oh,
The day of the dolphin. Yeah. Just so there's this guy. He gave acid to a bunch of to dolphins a bunch, and then that lady jacked the dolphin off. There's all these sensational stories. Long story short, this guy was getting paid by the CIA to do like all kinds of research.
Like the Metasteric goats type of.
It was similar to that. This is also the same group that spawned Synanon, if you're familiar with that one too.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, Synanon was like another self-help. It's like a self-helpy type group, but the whole thing is funded by NIMH, and it's all fucking MK Ultra research and shit. And it's like we have the documents, people. And Tom wrote a book about Charles Manson and didn't mention that he went to Esalen Institute many times.
Did he really?
Yes.
When was that, Scott?
I specifically in the Sanders book, the Esalen, they just say he went there to go do like poetry and like music stuff, and he would pick people up there. He would pick up girls who went there and then pimp them out and shit like that.
So this was 67. This was after he was out the last time.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
So this is where he's learning the brainwash.
I suppose, yeah.
This is post Scientology, post all this time.
The process.
Yes.
Well, it's concurrent with the process stuff, but I think that there's arguably some crossover between Scientology and Esalen.
That wouldn't be surprising, given that Dianetics is supposed to be a self-help
thing. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it's just shocking to me that he doesn't bring this. I remember when I read this the first time, that Esalen Institute didn't come up with shocked me
I
because
feel
it's
like if he brings up any kind of Scientology, then he opens up to a lawsuit
they
from
don't have the
Science.
clout they used to.
Not since going clear. I
Yeah, that
think,
fucked them, honestly. Yeah.
but
But have you seen David Miscavige's wife?
Nobody has. That's a trick question.
it's not the joke. Does the Pope fart in the woods? Um,
Does David Miscavige's wife fart in the woods? Who knows? I don't know. Nobody does.
find her. Uh, are you either, are you familiar with the Thomas Pynchon book or Paul Thomas Anderson movie Inherent Vice?
I've heard of it. I've
It's a
not
very
seen
trippy
either.
movie. Yeah,
Oh yeah, dude. The
I saw that once.
book even more so. If you ever read a Pynchon story, it's the most schizo shit ever. It really, Scott, I don't know. Are you into Pynchon at all?
I never read any of his stuff.
I after we're done with this, I'm gonna pick up Diamond Age, which Scott recommended,
You'd
and,
like that one.
and then I downloaded Philip K. Dick's Exogesis, which is
I didn't read
basically
that
like
one.
it's his like stream of consciousness schizo takes.
Oh no.
And I'm
Hell,
like, I heard about this while watching a
I think
documentary
he
about
went to
him.
Esalen, by the way.
That wouldn't be surprising.
Yeah. Hang on. Let me just Google that real quick.
sure.
Philip K. Dick Esalen Institute.
And
No, I mean it's. Wait a minute.
oh,
I'll find it.
oh please. Um,
But it's a huge book of just his
yeah,
schizo takes. And I'm like,
about like,
sign me the fuck up.
dude, uh, I oh, we're talking exegesis. I gotta check that out because I'm assuming that's later on in his career. He really, or was that
Yeah,
early?
no, it was when he was like full on schizo, locked himself in his house, and like I think this is towards the end, I think.
Yeah, that's what I figured. It sounds like something that would happen uh toward the end of his career. I mean, I got put on to Philip K. Dick in a thrift store book section. Like this sagely Gandalf looking gentleman came by, and he just saw I was in the mystery section. He was like, "Yeah, what do you like?" And he just told me everything. He put me on to all the hard boiled stuff, all the Raymond Chandler and Goodis and all that, and Philip K. Dick. Uh, Mike,
He
if
was
you're
switched on to something. I can't find anything related to the Esalen Institute with that, but whatever. It's not important.
no,
Um, but hang on. There's got to be stuff we're forgetting about here.
I mean, who can blame us?
I
Tell
mean,
them.
we could talk about Jolly West and Sidney Gottlieb.
Oh, okay,
Um,
yeah. I'll say this is that I guess Tom O'Neill has the scoop on this. I kind of have my doubts about that. Um, or I have my doubts about him authentically getting it, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Is that so he supposedly is the first person to have ever looked at Jolly West papers at Stanford? I doubt that.
I think it was UCLA, but then
All right, fine.
he's also talking about like how he had this appointment with Arlen Specter when Arlen Specter was a sitting senator,
Yeah.
and like he was concerned that maybe Arlen Specter was spooked up too.
I mean,
And
he's a senator and he was in the Warren Commission. He's a Fed. He's literally a Fed.
The friendly Fed. I
Yeah.
forget. Who do
No,
they
that's
call the
Jolly
friendly?
West was the friendly Fed.
Yeah, that's right.
they just everything about this, and it's like it makes me wonder like did they have any contingencies in case the Tate murder didn't happen, someone got cold feet? Like, was there like another roving band of like adjacent Mansonites? Not like Manson, but something
Well,
like
that's Bobby
them.
Beausoleil.
I'm talking about somewhere else. where it was going to be a bunch of hippies committing some kind of heinous murder, because the the end is that like it kills the entire hippie movement.
That's the legend, but I would make the case that there was no hippie movement really authentically. Like when we just did that we were just talking about that Psychopath Factory book, I believe,
Mm.
in Canada. And he talks about how there was like this hippie crash pad in like the one city, or like the one of the major cities in Canada where the hippie movement even existed, was just like this one town, and there's this one crash pad. Turns out the fucking one guy running the CIA's, mind control program in Canada is the one putting up the money for this crash pad in Canada. That's crazy. So it makes me wonder, like, the whole hate thing. I mean, besides, we already know that the free clinic, the Haight Ashbury Free Clinic, was spooked up. Why don't we just assume that the entire thing is a contrived thing? So yeah, they closed the book on it, sure, and they wanted to but I think like the notion that it was Manson that did it is mythical at best. First of all, because of the fact that Manson himself said hippie's dead. I am the guy. We're killing hippie years before the murders happened.
Yeah, but they just assumed that he was a hippie because they took drugs, they were into folky music, and they were into free love and all of that other stuff.
I
So,
agree, but my point is like,
excuse
of
me.
course, the whole thing is it's all fugazi. Like, of course, they can say this is when hippie ended because they started it, and they can decide when to stop it.
Right, right, right. I I also am still not satisfied with, it wasn't Helter Skelter, which I don't think we really did we
Go
yeah.
ahead, say what helter skelter supposedly means,
Yeah.
because this is
Yeah.
the thing. Tom O'Neill particularly, and I don't think Sanders doesn't do this as much, but Tom O'Neill particularly goes like Manson was racist, and it's like, was he racist? Or was
Yeah.
he just like, there are several races in America? Was kind of like what his entire thing would race. And he also, part of his racism was being aware of and kind of cagey about the fact that there were these radical black nationalist groups saying we want to overthrow the United States and just kill all whitey.
Hmm. Uh I okay, yeah, so I'm sorry, I'm putting it straight in my head.
But
Uh Go ahead, Jared, sorry.
no, but I was gonna say, well, you explain what the Helter Skelter
Yeah, say the
Skelter
helter skelter
narrative.
motive.
Uh, Helter Skelter is the motive behind the murders that was put forth by Vincent Bugliosi. Basically, that according to the eschatology of the Manson cult, that
Mm-hmm.
there was that tensions were rising to a point where they could inflame them with a staging a murder of white celebrities and Hollywood types, and pinning it on the Black Panthers, which would ignite. Which, ironically enough, I mean, you can you can let off, start off a race riot in Los Angeles pretty quickly, pretty easily.
It's
It's
gonna go.
not
The victim's gonna be the other side, though.
Yes.
right, but yeah, and then they were going to go
Why
in
people
the
don't riot.
um
Mm.
we
Have you
we
ever seen Black Friday sales? Yes, we do.
Yeah, they don't look very white to me, Jared.
I what's it called? Okay, but yeah, basically it's a
So
line. And
yeah,
and
yeah, go
that
ahead.
also running concurrently with the they chose that house specifically because Manson wanted to send a message to the previous owner, Terry Melcher, who had
Right,
uh,
reneged.
reneged on a recording contract offer. Um,
Which he never made, by the way. And also, I believe that I was in the Sanders book where I last left off. I don't know if that later will contradict itself, but the deal that was cut was for a movie that Terry Melcher was
He wanted to
going
make
to
a documentary, right?
Yeah, yeah.
a documentary.
And Nat
Uh,
Geo documentary.
might as well have been. It was actually NBC, I think. So no. But
So that stands for.
chill. Um, but no, they were making gonna make it. You're right, Jared. They were gonna make a documentary, not a recording thing. So I mean, just Bugliosi's full of shit, first of all, and second of all, the reason why it fell apart was because Manson wouldn't agree to doing what they wanted in the movie. They wanted to do like a bunch of sequences where they're all singing or sitting around, singing, dancing, doing the free love thing. It was supposed to be a moment for NBC to be like, hey kids, do you want to be degenerates in San Francisco or whatever? But Manson wanted to literally make Mad Max before Mad Max. He wanted to have several intense chase sequences through Death Valley where the family would be shooting at each other on dune buggies.
Got these doom buggies. Whatever.
And
Hey,
so
hold the camera. Drive
and so NBC said, "Yeah, that's not what we're not trying to make Mad Max yet. That's for Australians to make in 10 years." And the other thing is, the whole point was to get the kids to be degenerates. This is gonna make them like Mel Gibson.
This is gonna make the kids cool and tweak
Based
But
and want
yeah,
blowjobs before the jacuzzi.
and huff spray paint in the desert.
I think that's one thing that Charles Manson and Mel Gibson can agree with. Can
Dude,
agree on blowjob, then the jacuzzi.
oh, sure, of course, yeah. And you can say
but
whatever you want. Your jacuzzi.
True.
Dang it.
the Helter Skelter narrative sounds like it was written by a square.
Yeah, it
Totally.
sounds like Bugliosi came up with it. Yeah.
It doesn't sound like someone who would have been in tune with at least something of that movement and those ideals would be like, no, we need to do it this way. Like, it's like the studios coming in and
Oh yeah,
ruining a perfectly good movie.
that's a perfect way
Yeah.
to put it.
Yeah. Well, okay. So in from what I read from the Sanders book, the actual Helter Skelter, there was like a concept of like this apocalyptic apocalypse, essential racial apocalypse he called Helter Skelter. Um, but this was something that was going to happen irrespective of what the family did. You get what I'm saying? This had nothing to do with like they weren't trying to ignite a race war. They were like, we're on the brink of a race war because I'm looking at news right now, and the news is telling me we're on the brink of a race war. I mean, a lot of people say that this time period was incredibly volatile, racially speaking, and I think they're right to say so. So there's nothing crazy about. I mean, crazy in the sense that, oh yeah, I forgot there was like a hole in the desert that they wanted to go into to hide, to ride it out the race war. I forgot. And
The
supposedly there was a
bottomless pit
chocolate
revelation.
fountain. There's a chocolate fountain
Yeah, it's like the
inside
Garden
the
of Eden or something
yeah,
like that, right?
shit like that. Yeah.
The Garden
Um,
of Eden. I
Garden of
love it.
Like,
Eating chocolate. Yeah.
all of that sounds like it was written by a square.
No, I think this was actually legit. This is like something that Ed Sanders went around and like interviewed the members of the family, and they're like, "Yeah, man, we were looking forward to that chocolate fountain. Never happened." um, But and the other thing was they wanted to go out and dig further to get to this place, but supposedly there were Scientologist gold miners casting spells on them and keeping them from going out there.
Damn it. Scientologists are out there again. Now put the rifles away. It won't do any good.
Yeah. Well, but part of the reason this lore built was because they were like, okay, fuck the Scientologists. We're just gonna go out there, and then the car broke down on the way. They're like, damn it, they got us
They're,
again.
they're Scientologies. We've got Thetans in the engine.
But anyway, so the thing is like, so again, I don't think he was racist in the sense that he was aware of various different racial tensions at the time. And
Yeah.
I guess there was an element of racism because he said the blacks are going to take over. We're going to be hiding in the desert. And 10 or 15 years of them ruling is going to go, and then it's going to all fall apart because they can't do it. It was basically what he was, and they're going
Yeah.
to come and seek him out because this is my favorite part. Black people have high spiritual awareness.
Mm,
It's something that Manson said, and they will look at him and go, no, this is the guy.
I guess so. Look at him dance.
The fucking
Yeah.
maniac.
And the other thing was, so okay. The other thing was, this is all process shit, by the way. So he's Jesus. He thinks he's Christ,
But
and
he's
he
also
thinks,
Satan.
well, that's the process thing, because Satan and Jesus are the same in the process of theology.
Okay.
Yeah,
Lucifer, I believe.
oh, I'm still here, but I picked up this book I will always refer to. It's called Cult and Ritual Abuse by James Noblet and Pamela Sue Perskin. They refer to it as a dualistic matrix where
Right.
different where the followers can basically just pick and choose where their personal expressions fall on the you know fall on the map between Jehovah, Christ, Lucifer,
And
and Satan.
Satan.
Oh
Right,
wow, it's a
exactly.
choose your own adventure.
Pretty much.
Literally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
literally. Yeah. And that's how and it's obvious that this is, where Manson's coming from, and that's what he's pulling from. Yeah.
And so he had this notion that so he said that Jesus died 2,000 years ago for everyone's sins, and says that's a fact. And he says now this time Jesus will hide in the desert, and the squares are going to be the ones who are crucified,
Whoa, man.
and the blacks are going to be the Romans. I'm serious. This is in the book.
That's so fucking stupid.
I know, it's literally just like absolute like moron guy read one book and goes, I get everything,
Well,
man. Everyone's stupid except for me.
it's
This is the one guy who reads Catcher in the Rye in high school, and he's like literally me.
Yeah.
well, you know what it is? It sounds like a lot of the going back to Sus, Indiana, it sounds like a lot of that Christian identity, John Birch Society, crazy,
Yeah,
crazy
order
shit.
stuff, yeah.
Yeah, that a lot, it definitely tracks.
Well, I mean, if he was like doing any kind of like, would it sound more like a beatnik, or would it sound more like an evangelical preacher when Charlie would get into like a mood, if you will?
Both, I think. Because I mean, like those beatnik guys they wilded. Uh Yeah, I mean, there's that
I
whole
got
like
that.
also there's the fact of the matter is the whole beatnik thing was CIA too. We got fucking
Allen Ginsberg
yeah, Allen
and
Ginsberg, pedophile. He got people on it was literally founder of NAMBLA, bro. And then and then also you get what's his name? Junkie fucking William S. Burroughs applied to the CIA and was rejected. Okay. Yeah.
Jack
Since when do
Kerouac.
they kick you? Since when do they not allow you to take drugs while you're in the CIA? Get the fuck out of here with that bullshit.
Oh, that was hilarious when they're talking about like the guys at the CIA wanting to like like dose the punch bowl at the Christmas party.
Yeah, they did. Sidney Gottlieb did that. Yeah.
Yeah,
We should read that
Yes.
book, Chief Poisoner. I think it's called like Poisoner in Chief. It's called.
I read it. It's talk about limited hangout.
Oh man,
Yeah, it's Kinzer, the author.
oy vey,
He's not gonna
go there.
yeah, by any means. And he's written some other stuff that you would know, I think. I'm looking over there right now. I see legal aspects of hypnosis. That's on my shelf right now. It might be a fun one.
Anyway, um, is there anything else we want to get? So yeah, so obviously the Bugliosi penned Helter Skelter narrative is bullshit. I guess. Or I guess I give my summation of what I think was really going on. because I gotta leave you a little better off than Tom O'Neill. Um,
I mean, you don't have to have a
Full
what's
picture of
this
it, but I think I can give an educated sort of summation.
absolutely.
So Roger Smith is, I guess Roger Smith is arguably his handler. I know they have that like sort of mentor mentee relationship, and what's it called? There's the Grok book, Stranger in a Strange Land. They have that like Jubal Michael Valentine relationship. Um,
They he fosters Manson's kid for several months,
yeah,
which is kind of not nothing.
I mean, Roger Smith was Manson's get out of jail free card. Like whenever
yeah,
they
years.
got in a bind, any of the girls would they would just call him and he'd fix it. I mean,
Mhm.
he's literally like he has to be the handler who taps Manson. Like they're in this program with parolees, so they have access to all of these criminals, and they're like, well, okay, we're gonna pick the right one who's going to be our agent of chaos. It's literally an agent of chaos
Sure.
Yeah.
because of the COINTELPRO and
It's called Chaos, was
yeah,
one of the
chaos.
programs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the CIA program. So it's like,
They're the
okay,
same thing though.
we're gonna find the right guy. And Roger
Chaos
Smith,
is the program, by the way, Jared, that was monitoring Lee Harvey Oswald.
that's not surprising.
Yeah. But what's it called? So yeah, so basically if I had to give a summation of it, Roger Smith is the handler. I believe that a lot of wet work was done in LA during the time period in which Manson was at large and during, in general, like all that time from the time he got out of jail in 1967 until when he was, caught and put in jail in late 1969. A whole lot of wet work of all varieties, not just like murders, obviously, hush murders, drug dealer, drug supply captures, a lot of blackmail. I think I have to assume snuff films, all the stuff from the Program to Kill narrative. Um,
The but and Zodiac, let's not
it is so. Is it in sort of the same time period?
oh absolutely, yeah.
It is okay. I thought it was a little too early for that.
In fact, it's so eerily on time with it's happening a little bit before, say, the
Yeah.
process is on the scene and so on, but it goes on through that. And um I I think that we're basically talking about the same thing when we talk about Son of Sam and we talk about Zodiac and we talk about uh the family. We're talking about these just like these plucked these these things that are plucked from what is really a nexus of you know
Activity.
yeah, that you're everything that you just reeled off because it's it, it all uh it all stacks.
So Roger Smith is mentoring Charlie Manson, and Reeve Whitson is down in LA doing all sorts of wet work because he's already connected in from 5 ways from Sunday
Yeah.
with drugs, Hollywood, everybody, right? So does Manson, so Roger Smith is like, okay, you want to go to LA, do your thing down there. This is my guy down there.
It's possible. I can't put a fine point on say that's the guy, but I mean, they definitely knew each other and they worked together, I assume, in that
Or
capacity.
was there like some kind of like secret code where they saw each other at a party and one made one comment and the other person was like, oh, okay, I got you.
I think you said it yourself best, Jared. Everyone in the story is spooked out to the 6 ways from Sunday. Like there's no need to make a sign at a party because everybody knows what's up.
I guess, yeah, everyone's worshiping the devil.
Well, well, everyone did seem to know that, say, Reeves Whitson was a spook. even
Yeah,
though
He
like
used to tell people.
yeah, despite being the most mysterious man alive, the most mysterious man, the world's most interesting man, everyone knew he was a spook, which makes me wonder what was he.
I don't always kill Sharon Tate, but when I do, I blame it on a crazy drug addict.
Was that your was that you teasing what you really think happened, Scott? Because I don't think we got to that. What your total summary of the
That was it. I mean, I just feel like they were putting the bed on the whole hippie thing, and then they go, "Oh, here's a good way to get rid of all these
okay,
crimes, and we'll just put them all, wrap them all up nice and neat inside this
okay.
insane narrative that's pervasive for 60 years." Scott is going to find out about who Charlie Manson is from South Park in 1999. And he's not going to really understand why because they don't mention what is going on with him, but he's somebody that I must know about, evidently, because it's part of the fabric of American subculture is that you know this obscure, should be obscure, but for some reason incredibly elevated cult figure in true crime history. And it's just the whole thing's pretty befuddling. But I mean, that's XCOM, baby. Like that's fucking CIA, baby. That's what they do.
Yeah, I mean you
okay.
don't. Yeah, you don't really have to. I mean, we're not even addressing the occult and just the synchronistic kind of just weird rhyming of the whole thing with Polanski's life and his art and
His movie, I mean, like, come on, dude. It's a movie about a child devil, a woman basically being sacrificed to the devil in order to bring a demon baby. And then this guy's wife is killed by Satan worshiping cultists while she's 8.5 months pregnant.
yeah. So that alone,
Excuse me.
that aspect alone, that avenue itself, notwithstanding everything else, is so yeah. So
Absurd.
yeah, I like what do we now we take everything else and we tack that onto it. What is that? Does that I think that tints or changes the light in which we have to look at everything else because I think Jared, like you said, like what's the code word here? Like how are all these motivations stacking up and lining up and everything is falling into place without anyone seeming to know who told who to do what? Uh it's symphonic and it's yeah yeah what Michael Hoffman would call it like this whole thing is just full of Twilight language, just all of these things that are uh don't shouldn't make sense, but yeah.
Well, to follow what you're saying, Pat, is it's more like improv. It's like
uh,
if or yes
yeah
or if and then. It's like, well, if Charlie Manson doesn't go to LA, or if Sharon Tate isn't at the home, like, then we're going to do X, Y, and Z.
Mm.
Like, there's got to be some amount of improvisation. Like, for example, what if at the time they all decided to go out for a diner? Sharon Tate's 8.5 months pregnant. She's feeding for two. She gets hungry. And they're like, she tells Jay, I'm hungry. The rest of them are high on drugs. That maybe they get the munchies and they all go out. What happens then?
yeah
So
well
then,
yeah they probably
then
posted
Charlie's got to go improvise, and someone else is going to get murdered that night.
mm,
Maybe we come back tomorrow night.
I do think that the Sharon Tate thing was kind of an essential element of it because it was like she was an up and coming star and they needed to like have like a sort of Gerardian face to sort of deify.
I I
And
I agree, but there could have been that could have happened another night. That didn't necessarily have to be the first in the
but how
murder.
many murders did they do that we don't know about that were just sort of swept into the abyss? Because
mm,
of this big media cyclone that is created by this famous person being killed, you know? That's what
That
I'm saying.
that
Like that,
but that was the big one.
yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. That was the crucial element that created the myth that is the Manson Tate murders or whatever, Tate LaBianca murders. And again, it's like, does nobody take a fucking minute to go like, why with this LaBianca? Oh, he's kind of well off. Yeah, that doesn't make sense, but we'll just accept it because reasons.
Well, because it wasn't as sexy as
It was
the
way
st
sexier in terms of what they did, though.
I
Well, not
understand
like
that,
literally sexy. I mean, it's way more sensational.
but what, it's this beautiful woman. I mean, like someone straight up said, like I remember reading her wiki page, and it's like one of these agents or a photographer or something like said he stopped what he was doing while he saw her in Paris or London or something like that. Like that's how beautiful she was. And and Roman was like the it director, and it was like a Hollywood couple.
Mhm.
She's like excited to become a mom. It was like the perfect cover, if you will.
But she was also a witch. I don't know that she actually was excited to be a mom. And she was like fucking her ex-boyfriend while her husband was out of town. I
But
don't know, like,
all of that stuff would come out maybe later. But at the
yeah.
time, it was Sharon Tate, Roman Polanski's wife, was brutally murdered.
Well, yeah, they had to take those pictures afterwards.
Yeah. Excuse me.
Yeah.
I had the
Hold
flu. I had the flu last week, and I've got this lingering cough.
Oh, brother, I'm with you. God bless.
So
Uh, who's to say? I mean, so I opened up the
Let's summate here. Let's wrap up here.
yeah, well, after I say this one thing, those in the area, including a private security officer, had heard gunshots and arguing hours after the killers said they'd left. What?
well, that's Reeve Whitsitt and Charlie Manson going back to
Supposedly.
stage the murder scene.
Exactly. Yeah, but what the hell? Oh, stage. Yeah, so gunshots. I suppose they're just. But I don't know. I wonder if this was filmed. Yeah. But,
I do think it probably was, yeah.
Oof.
God help us.
We know that I mean, based on the fact that there's footage of the of Tate being fucked by two guys at the orders of Polanski, obviously they filmed shit there.
Yeah.
They
For
probably had their own little they had their own probably blackmail operation going on, you know, there.
yeah.
Possible.
Um. Yeah. So I mean, if we're tying bows on things, I never really was invested in getting to the bottom of this. The book was a fine enough read. I mean, it's definitely a page turner um if you're new to a lot of the Manson stuff, you could do worse than to start
Yeah,
reading.
this is a good primer to start
Yeah.
with, yeah.
But it pays to know that there's so much more yet that needs to be accounted for. And just there's things that will hardly come up in this that aren't hinted at, that aren't addressed in helter skelter in most conversation or in most theorizing about it. But I think we did Eye of the Chicken Hawk a few weeks back. We should never underestimate just how expedient these kinds of sudden dispatches of well-connected people can be. These can be money-making. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a sad day. We can also make a buck. Yeah, if we just make a tape of it, we can also send a message, and we can also get a job done for somebody, and we can also utilize, and we can also do it on the cheap by utilizing these mind-controlled hippies that we have on the leash. So yeah, it's doesn't quite matter. Well, it'd be nice to know where the memo came from at the beginning of the day. If we'd ever find
Sure.
such a thing. But
I would love that Hotline Miami phone call transcript.
yeah, perfect. But we ain't getting it.
No.
So just yeah, it's fine. Did you guys watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Yeah,
I
I saw it
did,
in
and
the
I do
theater.
have takes on that actually. I
Yeah.
do. I'm not sure.
You never
Here's my real belief. First of all, Quentin Tarantino. I gotta be honest. The guy, frankly, comes across as pedophile coded to me.
I'll disagree.
Well, did you disagree with my premise?
Yeah, I think he's into things, but I don't think kids are one of them.
Well, there was this image going around on 4chan years ago where it's a guy, which it's Quentin Tarantino with a foot in his mouth, and like somebody like drew further, and it's like there's no way this is possibly a adult woman's foot. Like,
I remember that. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
But at any rate,
That's
I do
horseshit.
think that there's certainly a Hollywood meme, I guess, that Polanski did nothing wrong. And like definitely I remember there's this clip of Whoopi Goldberg claiming that it was like it was even though it was
A 13,
statutory rape.
it
It
was
was
a 13 year
statutory
old
rape.
girl.
I know that. I know that. But tell that to fat ass Whoopi Goldberg. I I was saying it was statutory rape, but he was willing. She was willing, and saying this shit on the View, dude. But my point is that I think that that movie is and again, there's sort of like this meme within Hollywood discourse that like, you know, if he hadn't had his wife brutally murdered like that, maybe he wouldn't have been messed up, man. And he wouldn't have been in a place where he would have wanted to molest that girl in a hot tub in Jack Nicholson's hot tub. Um, and I think that the movie Once Upon a Time in the Hollywood, spoilers for the record, is the end of it is that the main character played by Brad Pitt thwarts the Tate murder, and makes it so that Sharon Tate is not killed, and he himself, I believe, kills Tex Watson and
Yeah.
whoever, Leslie Van Houten or whatever, and or Sadie Atkins or whatever, and I think that the movie is like a cosmic. The movie's like attempting to be like a cosmic like retribution and being like,
Yeah.
this is us fixing the record, man, and this is
Yeah.
that now he doesn't now he gets to have his reputation remains intact, man, kind
Yeah.
of thing.
He called it a fantasy. That's what he wanted to emphasize, I think. Tarantino was like, this is a fantasy. This is a fairy tale, is what he said. This is the fairy tale ending of how, this, we wish this would have gone. It's like,
Well,
fine.
because don't they, especially in that area, it's kind of like an end of innocence to a certain extent.
Again, that's like the narrative that I don't buy, you
Oh,
know?
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but that's been
Yeah.
the narrative that's always the normie narrative that's
Yeah, I
always
guess Quentin
pushed.
Tarantino certainly has imbibed that opinion.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I would
And
say
the
Roger
LA
Avery would
guys.
probably be a bit different, but
Yeah, Roger Avery's based. Yeah.
I would say that Tarantino, like, because even after the murder, like O'Neill's talking about how everyone's hiring security, they're getting security systems, um,
They
they're
bought a dog.
they bought a
Remember that
dog
4chan meme? Yeah.
they got a gun.
Yeah.
Like this was supposed to be like the
The
areas where you
notorious notorious hacker Charles Manson, known as Charles Manson. They bought a dog because he'd been trolling them. You remember that news article? It was like the notorious hacker known as 4chan was bothering these people, and they even went to the extent of buying a dog.
Oh God.
This was like 2005, six maybe. Good times. I remember that.
Wait,
And
wait.
also Jenkum. Remember Jenkum? Oh man, good times.
Poor Chanley Manson.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Charlie Forchanson. But yeah, I don't know. I think we did it. And I'm sorry if I missed anything, but it's a pretty expansive topic, not for nothing.
I mean,
Is there anything else at all that we missed? I guess yeah, Tom O'Neill came up with that guy, that Italian guy who died kind of mysteriously and had like he says there was connections to the Manson family, but he didn't say what they were. Um Kind of really seemed jammed in there at the end. He wanted to have more stories about how he was taken for a ride by
oh
these corrupt cops. Ah, poor Tom O'Neill. Everyone's just taking advantage of his integrity.
gosh.
Hey, look, he's got a story to tell and money to make. So
I guess, yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's it. I don't know,
Yeah.
it's Programmed to Kill all over again, baby. That's it.
Same shit, different shoe.
Yeah. Same
Uh,
shit, different street.
hey, how you
We were talking about San Francisco, weren't we? But anyway, Jared, anything you want to shout out before we hit the trail?
I'm good. Thank you guys.
Awesome. Thank
Always a
you for
You're
pleasure.
joining us
great.
as always.
Thank you, Jared. How about that?
Thank you.
Thank
I'll
you for
play the
joining
Manson
us.
card games with you, buddy.
And yeah, of course, Patrick's stuff is on can'tgetfooledagain.com. And also you can find our RSS feed at www.historyhomos.com. We're also available on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you find podcasts. We're also available on YouTube, BitChute, Rumble, Odyssey, Rockfin, and most importantly, on Substack. That's historyhomospod.substack.com. And you can just watch the video episodes there. But you can also, just like you could on YouTube, which you can on YouTube, go subscribe to our YouTube page. And but yeah, go subscribe at Substack, and you get a weekly bonus episodes, real content, not just bullshit. And yeah, so get over there and do that. Historyhomospod.substack.com. And you can follow us across social media at History Homos Pod. And you can join our Telegram group, chat with us. T.me/historyhomos is the channel. T.me/historyhomos chat is the chat. As of recording, still the friendliest place on the internet. And also, yeah, you can email me your size and address to get a t-shirt, to order a t-shirt and also if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please email me at historyhomos@gmail.com. Die with dignity. Patrick, what would you like to sign off with this week?
A final excerpt from the book, if I may.
Sure.
May land with a dud, but referring to a Dr. Joel Fort, research psychiatrist, to open the nation's first LSD treatment center to try and help people from the CIA dosing them in their own bathrooms. But asked by Irving Kinerick, who was a character in the book in himself, like the most disheveled man ever.
Yeah, he's like Barry Ribs if he was a lawyer.
Asked Dr. Joel Fort, let us say, with your knowledge of LSD, you have a school for crime, and then you take them here and you program them to go out and commit a murder here, there, everywhere. Are you telling us that this can be done, that you can capture the human mind by such a school for crime? I'm indeed telling you that.
Later, homos.